Okay. All right.
Oh, hello, friends.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. How are you, friends? It's been a few minutes or hours since we've last, or a few days or weeks since we've last hung out.
It's been a few.
It's been a few. By Chris's definition, it's been a few. It's
a few. We've got a poll going in chat right now. Welcome to the R&R Show, where we debate the English language.
Semantics.
Yes.
If you were to say a few something, like a few, what's the range? I honestly think the poll was rigged from the beginning. Because I also might have voted 3 to 5. I think 3 to 11 should have been in there. But we see in the chat that 2 correct people have put all of the above.
But notice what is taking the lead by a massive stride is 3 to 5.
Yeah, 3 to 5. That's true.
Yeah.
And when Ruel sent that message saying we're on in a few, I think it was 5 hours.
It was 5 hours at the
it
edge
was on
of
the
5
upper
hours.
edge.
Yeah.
So chat to catch chat up. Ruel loves to send a message the morning of the show with like the list of who's covering what. This tends to be a message at around 6:30 in the morning Pacific time, and Ruel will finish the message with, "Great, thanks so much. See you in a few hours." That every single time, without fail, sends me into a tailspin of, oh my God, what time is it? Where am I? Who's the president? I'm scared. Because it is not a few hours from 6:30 Pacific to now. It is like 6 hours from then to now.
Yeah, it's a few.
It stresses me out every time. And Chris is saying that is a valid definition of a few, and I am refuting that.
Yeah.
You're refuting that?
Few hours is non-specific as long as it's less than a day. I completely disagree. Chris says it goes up to a dozen, so it's 3 to 11.
It goes up to 11. Goes up to 11.
Yeah.
But
11.
I would accept 3 to 9.
I would
accept 3 to 9.
My upper limit my upper
Mm-hmm.
limit is 6. That's a few hours up, like 3 to 5 or 6.
It is okay.
Yeah, because if it's
I'm
7,
going to work at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
I am making after dinner plans with a friend, and I'm texting them to confirm. I do not say see you in a few hours. I say see you later. That is not goes outside.
Oh yeah,
sorry, I'm back on the show, and I'm being controversial already. I'm so sorry.
These are hot takes.
Fox says, "Chris, I want to go out and grab a few beers. Is it 11 beers? Yeah."
Right? That's weaponizing the term few.
Have a lovely evening.
Yes.
Please, officer, it was only a few. No, please don't drink and drive. We did have a question in the chat about our topic, which we will get into. Our topic this week is about deck builders. Goblin is asking, that we're going to get into that list later. Goblin is asking, is this pure deck builders or anything with deck building in it? We had a great internal debate about that as well.
We did.
Even more furious than the great debate about a few, which has been thus defined.
A few deck builders.
Yep.
Technically it's 12, so it doesn't count.
It doesn't count. We got more than a few, but it is going to be purely deck building, no other elements. And we thought that it would be fun to pair that with the next one. Our next episode will make it deck building with other elements.
Yes.
And so we're defining
deck builders.
Yeah, we're kind of deck builders, something that has that building element to it. And so that'll be the list today, and it'll be the one that'll be happening on the 21st. Which
that's right.
Yeah, I'm also excited about. Just a few deck builders.
Just a few deck builders.
And well, now I have to ask, what's a handful? Because I feel like that is also, is handful 5? Like less than 5? Like you could...
No, a handful is more based on context. Because you have to have it in your hand.
Okay.
Oh, of course.
Oh,
you can't have a handful of anything else that wouldn't fit in your hand. A handful of buildings? No.
No,
possible,
apparently not.
Unless you're talking about Lego.
Oh. Well, darn, now I can't say every Tuesday morning, I'll see you in a handful of hours, folks. So I can't get out of that. Darn it. As we came to the conclusion, I'm going to be a little more precise in my timing. So when I send out that email, and I didn't blame it on my lack of coffee. Usually I'm a little more coherent. So I just sent that out. I'm going to say, I will see you in 5.3 hours.
My perpetual anxiety, Ruel. This is an ish me, not an ish you. I promise. This is on me 100%.
But we're a team. We want to make we want to make things go as smoothly as possible. I do not want to bring any stress to my co-hosts.
We're the 3 Arsketeers.
The 3 Arsketeers, yes. I will drink to that. I have a blueberry lemonade sparkling water
name?
from Trader Joe's.
I just heard it. I did just hear that I did call us Arsketeers.
Arsketeers.
I did not mean that that's not how it's written. It's written R and then Sketeers, just to be clear to anybody who might just be listening to this.
Oh,
I didn't see the.
It's too late now.
See the R's in the top screen.
Welcome on, friends. In chat, thank you so much for hanging out with us. All the shenanigans going on right now. This is the pre-show to the R&R show. We record this every couple of weeks, where we take a list, a topic, and do a top 12 list with Richard. Of course, he's joining us through the magic of video, and you all get to hang out with us and have some fun before and after. We've been going a little long on the pre-shows because we just enjoyed Show's company so much. We just tend to ramble, so we're going to keep things a little shorter, because what we want to do is hang out here for a few minutes and then do the show, and then have an extended post show so we can talk about the games that didn't make the list, and also talk about the games that folks in chat, you are all welcome to participate as well. We'll talk about the games that would have made your list as well.
100%. It's a good list, but before we do that, we just like to hang out and get to interact with you, chat, and get to interact with each other. Ray, you missed last week. It was our biggest disappointment. The list was the biggest disappointments, and every number was "Where is Ray?" I don't know if you watched the recap. I hope you. If you didn't, you don't need to go back and watch it. That is what happened.
That's it.
Yep. That's what happened.
Spoilers. Dang.
We definitely missed having you around. Ruel and I, we put the chat to sleep, and now you're here to bring the energy and joy. What's been going on with you, Ray? What's been going on with you? Got anything exciting on the docket? What's up at the op?
Yeah.
Welcome to our new segment called "What's Up." At the op.
I love it.
I love that.
That's
my
great.
God. No, I'm doing really good. I'm really glad to be back. I was gone. I was out in San Diego at the op offices actually all last week, because I work full-time remote. So they try to fly me out there on occasion to do some fun in-person filming and some bonding activities. I went to my very first baseball game. We did like a little marketing team outing to a baseball game.
Oh my gosh.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
I think I maybe went to one as a really young kid. I don't remember it very much. So there was a lot of, frankly, a lot of gaslighting about how baseball is played when my coworkers found out I'd never been to one before. So it took me the whole game to really parse through what was just bold-faced lie and what actually is baseball, because to be honest, as someone who doesn't really know what's going on, it all kind of sounded the same.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Now you're ready to play baseball highlights. Now you're ready.
Yeah, now I can play all those baseball games Ruel loves.
Yes.
But it was awesome. I saw a grand slam. It was a whole thing.
Wow.
It was very, very fun.
I'm super excited that you went to so I'm assuming it was the San Diego Padres game?
Yeah, it was the Padres.
Okay,
yeah.
Beautiful stadium.
I would have assumed that as well. I knew that, but Ruel beat me to it.
I beat you to
it.
That's what I knew. Yeah. We both were right there. We were right there.
Board Game Bree says, "Oh, hey, some guy's doing a baseball themed podcast soon. You should talk to him." Now, who was that? Yeah, there might be someone on this stream right now that just launched a baseball's live stream. Yeah, I did it yesterday.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's called Major League Meeples, and it's board gamers who enjoy watching baseball. We just talk about baseball and try to tie it into board games, but honestly, it's just me talking about how great the Dodgers are. That's it. That's all the whole podcast. So, anyways.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. A little different thing.
Fungi Bonbon subscribe with Prime. Thank you for subscribing with Prime. Everybody out there, if you have an Amazon Prime account, and I know you do, you're anonymous here. You can admit it. You can subscribe with Prime, and it supports the channel and takes money out of Jeff Bezos's pockets. So a win-win-win. Subscribe with Prime. You also get a bunch of perks, which include lists of videos, exclusive Rahdo videos that will be whispered to you in some capacity. The lists will be whispered at you, and you can have access to additional content. So it works out. But sorry for interrupting you, Ray. You were telling me all about the great new releases that the op has dropped.
Yeah. So I went out there to try out a bunch of our upcoming games and stuff, and we recently got to announce one of them, which I got to play a lot when I was out in San Diego, which is a game called Stock Exchange. We announced that a couple weeks ago. I think, oh, look at that. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's Stock Exchange.
You had that locked and
locked. I was
loaded.
Locked and loaded. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
You must
look
be a
at that professionalism. Jeesh. But yeah, this is a game called Stock Exchange, which I am personally very, very excited about. This is obviously a stock market, like, portfolio manipulation game, but it's got this really, really beautiful, first of all, lots of puns at my disposal, which is very fun as a social media copyright person. But it's got this absolutely gorgeous handcrafted papercraft art. All those pieces of art that you see are like a woman actually made that in real life and took photos of them. And it's really fun. If you've never played, I find that Stock Exchange games are kind of niche. There's not a ton of them. So if you've never played them before, this is a really accessible jump into the genre. So like the core of the game is the stock market. You have your own hidden portfolio of tulip bulbs that you have invested in, and you want to try to change up your investment so that you are investing in whatever flower is going to be worth the most at the end of the game. But whatever flower is worth the most at the end of the game is a variable thing that all players get to influence. I like to call it Candy Crush, because that's what it feels like. There's this little bulb planting like triangle where you get to place bulbs, and depending on, you know, whether they're in clusters or if they have enough air to breathe, they will bloom. And the more flowers of a certain type that bloom, the higher their stock rises. And that's a communal board. So you can kind of try to block in people if you think they're trying to grow a certain type of flower. There's a little bit of like an area control, spatial reasoning puzzle within figuring out what flowers grow in their stock value. So it's a theme that tends to be kind of dry in a really, really beautiful package. So I'm very, very excited about this. I got to film a lot of videos for this game while I was out in San Diego.
That's cool.
And I'm very excited.
I really like stock market style games.
Yeah.
I didn't know what this was. I just assumed it was going to be when you said, I got to play this new game, Stock Market. I didn't even read the phrasing of it. I just probably assumed it was a typo, and I was like, there must be this stock market game coming out. Great, I love stock markets. I'm excited to hear about it. And so I was expecting to see like the charts of the stocks go up and down, but the fact that this is in like such a pretty package and means it could be accessible, and means it might be a stock market game that I could play with people who don't like stock market games, because I like that a lot in terms of manipulating and trying to like time out your resources and getting
anticipating what other people are investing in. It's almost has a little bit of a deduction element to it, of trying to anticipate and block out someone from something. And
so that's really cool. The artwork, I mean, the ops on an upswing ever since Ray joined them. That's
for sure. There's a direct correlation.
There is a direct correlation between Ray joining the team and them starting to produce like really good titles. So I don't know. I think it's all Ray. That's cool. No, it looks really cool. That makes me a lot more excited than I was expecting to be. I'm like thrilled with renewed vigor. To check this thing out.
Yeah, I'm very excited. It's just basically exactly what you said. It's a genre that I really enjoy, but often tends to come in kind of drab packaging. And I'm always down for putting a spin on a theme to open it up to people that might 100%. Have otherwise passed on it. So very excited for this.
Agreed.
That feels like right in line with the ops sort of mandates too, right? In terms of
100%.
They really do that would be the thing that I would say about their company. If I had to distill it to like one core tenant, I feel like that would be number one for me. I can't think of something that represents the ops like catalog better than that sentence, personally.
That's very sweet. Well, I appreciate it, and we're very excited. It'll go nicely hand in hand with Gnome Hollow, which is almost in the final production phase. We're tweaking a couple things, but we're gonna have this whole like garden theme at Gen Con with those two games kind of going hand in hand together. So I'm very, very excited, and it was just very cool to get out there and see the team, but also nice to be back home. It's a very long trek for me out to San Diego, so
that's fair.
I'm happy to be back.
I'm going to be in San Diego on the 23rd. 23rd to the 28th for KublaCon. I'm running a WSBG mini qualifier there where you can win your ticket. And KublaCon's awesome because they're also putting up money for like a flight. So you can win your hotel, 4 nights hotel, 4 entries into WSBG to play the World Series end of September 26th to 22nd to the 26th. And also you get $400 like flight stipend. So like that's the
very cool.
That's
very
sick.
Yeah. Stoked. And then I'm also going to be in St. Louis the 15th to the 20th for Geekway doing a similar thing. So if anybody watching is going to be there, come, even if you're not going to like participate in the event, come say hi because like I have to run the event. So come play games with me while the event is running, so that I can play games and also like then get up and judge and like if there are any rules questions.
Yeah.
So please come play games with me. I might have to stop and do my job and
don't you hate that?
the World Series, but
that's literally also me at conventions.
I still want to like play so many games. So
awesome. Wow, you're traveling all over the place, Chris. That's really cool. I want to thank Sailnet for the resub. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for the support.
Yeah.
And also OJ Dash, thank you for the follow. Welcome on in. We're hanging out doing the pre-show for the R&R show. And we were just talking about how the op, in the words of Board Game Breed, they are on an upswing of great titles.
Yeah, that was very good.
That was really cute.
So, yeah, that was fantastic. And I'm just thinking of the games right off the top of my head. You had the Art Project. You had now Stock Exchange and also Gnome Hollow. What was the
Aqua?
The Aqua, yeah, that one I absolutely love. So many great titles. Yeah, total bangers this year. Y'all are just crushing it. So congrats again.
Oh, thanks so much.
Yeah.
I heard when you said Aqua, I heard Fakwa, and I was like, that is not a game that I want to get involved in. I'm like, the opposite. I take it back what I said. But Aqua's good. Aqua's good.
Oh my gosh. See, Ray, we missed you. This is what we missed. We missed enjoying ourselves. Last week we were just miserable, right?
No
Chris?
fun last week.
No fun
Nothing
last
but
week.
business.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I'm back.
Well, it's weird that Stock Exchange is up because we're all literally just we got out our portfolios and we just went across and we're like, hey,
of course,
we invest in
just insider trading, just right here.
Totally,
yeah.
It
really didn't. It wasn't as fun. No, this
exactly.
is
now I've got the FTC at my door. It's like, oh, what are you gonna do? You know?
No, yeah, well, it's a whole hassle now. Yeah.
Going back to your baseball podcast. AG Fox said, I want to hear Chris and Ray do a baseball podcast.
Oh, that would be fun.
So
my God,
we are going to have some competition for you, Ruel.
Oh,
and then I also wanted to highlight this. Not that I know anything about baseball, but Imagine Eric said, talking about how good the Dodgers are. So it's a 2-minute show. And I thought that was a very funny comment. That
was a great comment. Did you notice how I sort of like skipped over that? I was like,
you didn't read it?
Yeah, I was like, I don't need to read this. Thanks for bringing that up, Chris.
Yeah, no problem. I got you covered. Just in case. You know, I like interacting with the chat. So I want to make sure chat gets shout outs.
Yeah, it's a fun time, folks. If you are into baseball, even if you're not into baseball, it's more of like, it's not like a hardcore baseball podcast where we're getting the stats and all that. I'm more about just hanging out with friends who enjoy baseball. And, you know, I'm talking more about like the trip that Michelle and I just took. We went to Dodger Stadium, talking about the food that we got. I had a really good Korean short rib bowl. Oh my gosh, I didn't, I like Dodger Dog, sure, but having a Korean short rib bowl in a souvenir bowl that looks like a baseball, I mean, there's no greater pleasure in life, friends. So if you want to hear stuff like that, come on over to the baseball podcast next week.
That sounds
great.
I
will say the food was really good. That was something I always kind of had this impression of baseball food as being overpriced, which it is.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Of it being just hot dogs. There was a lot of stuff at the Padres stadium that was really, really good. So
did you get any souvenir like
hot dogs?
What was that?
Oh, I was going to ask, did you get anything like in a souvenir, like a baseball helmet or? Like
no, but one of my coworkers got like a souvenir like cup that had one of the players on it and stuff. That was really high quality that they were giving out with soda and stuff.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it was very fun. It's such a, I don't know, culty is too strong of a word, but there was just I like to just be in places where people are excited about stuff. I think that's something I'm learning about myself.
Yeah.
I love conventions partly because I love board games, but I also just like that infectious excitement. So that was definitely present for me, even though I really am not a sports person in any way, shape, or form. I will say when everyone stood up and started singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," that kind of scared me a little bit. That was a cultish moment. I'm not gonna lie.
That's a total
that was
cult.
Weird. I was like, excuse me? Is there some sort of memo? But I did enjoy the general feeling of everyone's just really hype and excited about something and in the same space to celebrate. That was cool.
Yeah, and that's what I love too, and that's what I want my podcast live stream to be, is celebrating those moments. Like for my Patreon supporters, I actually have a little clip of me and Michelle singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" at Dodger Stadium.
Oh,
so
cute.
yeah, and we love little things like that. Those little traditions that you learn over the years that you're going. I'm such a sucker for marketing. Like you put any food like in a cup that looks like a baseball or a helmet, like I'm buying that thing. You know,
Love
and
that.
like I saw some guys had these beers that were in a baseball bat. And like the bat looked hollowed out.
That's
like
a lot of beer.
That is a lot of beer. And I don't even drink beer
God.
anymore, but I'm like, I gotta buy that next time, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, just get a few. Get a few beers.
Yeah, just a few beers.
Well, not a couple. Not
Just
a
a
couple.
few.
Sorry, my bad.
How about a handful of beers? Does that work?
A handful, yeah. Honestly, my definition of handful was very wrong because it's like a handful of beers. It's one. It's two?
It's one.
I don't know.
A handful of beer is a singular beer, yeah.
Single beer.
By your definition.
I got a handful of hands. That's three.
Exactly. Magic Air says sports fandom is just mainstream cosplay. Totally.
So true.
I go way back when fantasy baseball was not a thing, like when it was like super uber geeky and like all the people who are into baseball made fun of fantasy baseball. But now it's like,
I've only ever known it as mainstream. That's funny.
Yeah, it was before. It was like totally looked down upon, and like now it's like a thing. And same with cosplay. That's all it is. Like we put on the Dodger jersey, we are cosplaying as Dodger fans. I mean, it's all good.
It's always so funny to me. I don't know. There's some sort of sports event that sometimes overlaps with Gen Con. At least it did a couple years in a row or something. Some football game or something where sometimes they'll walk through Gen Con. You'll see, all the Gen Con attendees and their cosplay and all that stuff, and then you'll just see this mass of people all in their jerseys, and they always kind of give each other dirty looks. I'm like, you do understand that you're just the same thing in a different font, right? We do understand.
It's just
that
different costumes.
This is just the same thing, just in a slightly different sector of like nerddom. We do get that, right? Because there's always those like dirty looks, and it makes no sense to me.
Agreed.
So
yeah. It's just different costumes. That's all it is.
Yeah, exactly. Ray translated, I'm very young. Thanks, Hexstar. I appreciate that. I'm just a baby.
I see. You also have selective chat reading, Ray.
Yeah, right.
We should highlight this one comment. Oh,
no,
Hexstar says, I'm very young.
It's a mean thing.
Oh my gosh. We miss you, Ray. That's what it comes down to. This is great.
Thanks. I'm very, very happy to be back. I miss talking board games with y'all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Speaking of talking board games, we're going to be talking about some deck building. We're going to get the show started a little early this time, folks, so we can get into it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's get into it.
Yeah. We're going to get into it, do the list, and then afterwards, we want to hear what you think, folks. We're doing the top 12 deck building games, and as Chris had noted, this is pure deck building. We're not doing deck builders with a board or other elements. This is strictly the...
We probably want to clarify that in the recording as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're going to get some people who are like, why didn't you pick...
Exactly.
That's how I read every comment ever.
I'm going to be saying that. I'm mad that I can't pick some of my
I know.
Favorites,
Let's have this whole conversation all over again in like 30 seconds when we start the recording.
Yeah, we'll do that for sure. Good call.
I don't want to talk to you guys anyway unless it's being recorded.
Let me turn off this stuff here. Text banner stays up.
And tell us, I know Ruel already said this, but tell us like your top 5 or your top 3 deck builders, and I'll try to flag them, and we can go back and talk about them after the show. I'll try to make a note of them. If you do like I don't know, do something to denote it so I can catch it, like top, like do that, and then like blah 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 list or whatever. Do that so I can like catch it, and I'll keep a note of them, and we can talk about them after.
Awesome, thanks, Ray. Yeah,
Tom, I've never heard of that one. Fazaka, is that like football guy?
Yeah, it's German. One? You wouldn't get it. It's fine.
Yeah, it's actually my number 3 on my list. You'll see it soon.
Yeah, I was gonna put. Cool, that's cool.
Yeah, it hasn't been translated yet.
Yeah, there's an expansion, Physical 2, coming out.
Yeah, Electric Boogaloo. Yeah.
It's a Welsh deck building game. Salenet says advanced complaint. What? No Thunderstone Quest? I still need to play Thunderstone Quest. So
I love advanced complaint.
Yeah.
To complain about something in advance. We don't make assumptions.
That's brilliant.
You're probably right. At least for me, you're right.
I didn't say it.
At least for me, you're right.
I'm so offended. Advanced complaint.
Oh no, I think it's... Hey, you can only be offended if it's wrong. So if Thunderstone Quest appears on the list, then you can be offended.
I don't know, that's how that works.
I think that's how it works. It's an advanced complaint. The complaint is the complaint valid? Is the complaint valid at the end? I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah.
while Ruel gets it all set up, you all set up to go, Ruel?
I'm trying to compose myself. Ray said electric boogaloo. You had me right there, Ray. That's
100%.
So sorry.
No,
while Ruel
I love
gets set up, and we'll vamp for that time. Ray, did you play any other games at the op offices that were very fun, exciting?
Ooh.
Anything that did you only play op games?
No,
anything
so
that you want to spoil too, like anything upcoming that you can't talk about that you want to let slip?
No. I played a couple of like early prototypes that we're thinking about like acquiring, which is such a cool part of like the publisher process, because we have in-house designs, but then we also take pitches from external designers, and it's such a fun process to see a game in a really early stage and to decide like, can we like fit this to our brand? Can we tweak this so maybe it's a little bit less complex? A very interesting process. Can't talk about any of that here though, so I'll talk about the other games I played. After like we work at the office, we like to go back to the hotel that we all stay at, like all the remote marketing people. We play a bunch of games like well into the evening. It's like our own little mini con.
Nice.
And we just did a gauntlet of like Ray's favorite small box games, because I was flying, so I couldn't bring everything. But I taught them Trio and Cat in the Box. And That's Not a Hat.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened. I'm going to choose to believe it's somehow not my fault. But one of my coworkers, who's a very, very, very heavy gamer, I've never seen someone, and I'm going to throw him under the bus right now. I've never seen someone struggle with a rule set harder than one of my coworkers struggled with Trio. Just like could not wrap his mind around it. So it became like this really fun ongoing joke of like, sorry, can't play baby games. Like I can only play really complex games if there's fewer than 5 rules. Like he kept trying to overcomplicate it, and I was like, no, literally, it is Go Fish, the memory game. There really is not a hell of a lot more to this game than that. You're really stretching.
That's right.
So that was just like a very fun in joke for that whole week. Was every night we sat down to try to play Trio, and every night he got hung up on a different rule that he was convinced like shouldn't be the way it was. Very fun to watch.
That's great.
And then I also got to finally play Skyrise. I got my copy in the mail, but haven't opened it. And someone else brought their opened super mega deluxeified version that I got to play for the first time, which is always so nice when you get to play a game that you ordered like with someone else's copy, so that when you go to open yours, you're like bada bing, bada boom. Like I know how to do this. Yeah. So that was really fun.
Sweet.
Nice.
I played Cat in the Box for the first time this weekend.
Oh,
you did?
How'd you like it?
Yeah. It was fun. Yeah.
So you liked it.
I liked it. I both liked and didn't like it, and I'll tell you once I get out of this box. I both liked and didn't like it.
Oh, of course.
Nice.
No, but for real, gun down. What do you think?
No, I quite enjoyed it. I was very excited to go into it after I had like sort of devolved myself from that idea of there's no suits and like the gimmick.
Oh, that's right. We talked about this. You were like on the fence.
Pushed me away. Yeah. And so then like when we were talking more about it, I was like, okay. And I really quite enjoyed it. I think it's slick. I like bidding where you want to bid low tricks and you want to lose bids. Like any card game that has that in, like Stick the Dealer or any of that, like those general card games where you can bid 0 and you go for 0. I always think that is a very fun idea, and I really like the tension of I need to play my 8 now because it's gonna be gone if I want to lock that spot on the board. So it was really quite fun.
Nice. Yeah, I'm
glad you liked it.
Such a good game.
I have no stake. I have no stock in Cat in the Box. I just really love it. And I get mad when people don't like it.
You really love it, and it has stock.
Oh,
I swear, I don't get any profit share from the Cat in the Box evangelizing. I just really love that game.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. We are good to go on my end. We already, Chris and Ray.
Yeah, let's rock and roll.
Let's rock and roll. So, folks, we are recording this for YouTube later on. We will be so into each other, we're going to not interact with chat so much until the post show. So stick around for the post show. We'll talk about all the deck builders that didn't make the list, and we want to talk about the ones that you have as well. I'm going to start with the sponsor intro that Richard did. And Richard warns us that it's going to take a little while. He's going to ramble a little bit. So, yeah, we've got like an 8-minute intro, I think. So, folks,
no way.
If you need to take a break, this is the time to go right now. Okay,
That's so funny.
Yeah, so let's get it started. Here we go. Richard, take it away.
Hey everybody, this week's R&R is brought to you by the Tramways Engineer Workbook Volume 2, which is crowdfunding on Kickstarter right now. And folks, if you love deck builders, you are in for a treat, because this is a book full of deck building puzzles that you can solve anywhere. If you're on the go, if you're just lying around on the couch at home. And I'm going to spend a few minutes showing you how it works today. Let's take a look at Berlin, 1865, where we've got 3 objectives and we've got 6 rounds to do it. This is kind of like a chess puzzle where it says, hey, set up your chessboard and you've got 4 turns to get checkmate. That's what we're doing. 6 rounds to score 30 points, deliver all of our passengers, connect 2 industrial areas with an upgraded link. If we can do that, we win. And here's an extra twist. On this map, you get 3 points every time you upgrade a link. So that might be a big part of our strategy. But for now, on my first round, I'm thinking I just need to get some people delivered, because as part of setup, each of the 4 buildings, residence, leisure, commercial, industry, have somebody waiting to get delivered. I start with no points, sadly, and with 1 stress, because it takes a lot of stress to manage a workforce of 2 workers. I've got no cash, but I do have 8 cards that I will be playing to try to puzzle out how to achieve all these objectives. And I've also got 2 cards I could buy later on, because at its heart, this is a deck builder. Here's my deck of cards. I could make my deck of cards bigger. And so, on my first turn, I've got 2 actions. And I think my first action is going to be lay some track, because there's no way to deliver anybody anywhere yet. So that means I've got to play cards with these track icons on them. And I'm thinking what I want to do is I want to get this passenger to another location via rail, because over here I'm reminded at the end of round 1, if my industrial areas are empty, then new passengers will show up, and that means more money, more points, the more people I deliver. So let's connect this industry to this commercial. I think that works great, which requires 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, but it's more expensive to build across the river. It's going to cost 1, 2, 3 plus 2 more to go across the river. So I need 5 links worth of cards played, and I've got these 8 cards in my hand, and I can play any of them and combine them to add up. So let's play this card, and that gives me 2 links. And let's play this card. That gives me 2 more. So I need 1 more. And this would be overkill. Let's play this one. So I've got 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 links. That's enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, but to build, it also requires a worker. So I've just gone from 2 workers to 1 worker. Okay, now, before I continue though, this card is a multi-use card. If I'm willing to take some more stress, and if I take too much stress, I start losing points, I could activate these other actions, and I think I will. I'll spend 1 stress to get $3. That's money I can convert into points when I deliver people to a leisure area, which is all the way up here. Also, some cards require this card, which lets me hire more workers, and I'm going to need more workers. I need to spend $3 to play that card. So I've got the money to hire another worker. I could play that right now, but let's wait a little bit. All right, so that was my first of 2 actions. I laid some rail by using those 3 cards, and I got a little bit of stress to get an extra. Now, for my second action, let's get this person to go shopping. And again, I've got to combine cards. I have to play a card with this ticket icon. This card is already spent, so I can't use it again. I mean, I could have used the ticket if, but didn't have as my separate action. I'm going to play this card not to access the residential area over here, but instead for the ticket. And now I need to add this card, because these 2 cards combined is a ticket to the commercial area. So bippity bop boom, this person is now very happily delivered over there. I've made my first delivery. Huzzah! And for every link they traveled along, I get a point. So if I had actually said, hey, deliver all the way over here to this leisure across multiple lines, I'd get multiple points, right? So that's cool. Plus, I get money. 1, 2, 3. So now I'm up to $6. Alrighty. And depending on where you deliver, you get other bonuses. When you deliver to a commercial zone, you have a choice. You either make $5. Oh, by the way, also, when I make a delivery, I get more stress. So either, because I delivered here, I get $5 more going up to $11, or I can get another card. It's like that $5 I buy another card with. And that's what I'm going to do, because I'm going to need more cards for my remaining 5 turns. So I want this card that gives me access to residential lines and the leisure line. Oh, if I don't buy this card, I can never deliver anybody up to the leisure zone, which means the money I'm making can't be converted into points. Right, but this other card gives me access to commercial, and I can play it to reduce my stress. I don't know how much stress I'm going to incur, so this is the card I'm going to take. This card is now in my deck of cards. It hasn't been played yet, so I'll be able to play it round 2 because I want to deliver to the leisure zone. That might not be the winning strategy. I might have just made a losing turn because I'm going to need to reduce my stress as time goes on. But this game is full of tough choices. Anyway, that was my second action. I have now done actions 1 and 2 on the first round of the game. So now there's a little bit of cleanup. And then here's the main thing, folks. This says I get 4 of these 5 cards back. One of them is going to stay in my discard pile. So now choices get really tough. Also, at the end of the round, I finish this, and hey, another person showed up ready to be delivered. So for round 2, which of these 5 cards do I want back? This one's implicitly better than this because this one gives me 2 rail, this one gives me 2 rail and commercial. I'm thinking probably I'll not do that one or that one, but those are double rails. I don't know if I need money. I've already got some money now. I could probably hold off on money because I'm probably in round 2 going to spend some money to get another worker because I'm going to make more rail. I don't need this card though if I'm not going to go out to the residence. Neither of this one didn't give me a ticket. So this is my only. So do I bring back both tickets? I mean, I bought both tickets if I'm going to spend both of my actions making 2 deliveries. Like this way and this way. I could deliver both of these people with both of those tickets if I get both of those back. Oh man. But don't forget, I've ultimately got to use this to build up industry. I need to build an industry zone because by the end of the game, I need to connect 2 lines and I need to upgrade that line to complete this objective. Right. So, right off the bat, folks, I'm just getting started and the puzzle is kicking in. And here's another fun twist for this game. You could play this as a solo. And I guarantee you, it will take you many attempts to figure out how to puzzle this. And there's potentially more than one solution too. But what's also cool about the workbook is it's compatible with 2 players. This is an on-the-go 2-player deck building game where it comes with 2 different colored pens. So I have access to these cards, and so do you. So I take turns, you take turns, I take turns, you take turns, doing using our own versions of these cards, laying our own rail. And then I can use my money to pay to use your rail and move people around. It's a blast. And then it becomes less of a puzzle and more of a competition where you're trying to score the most points over these 6 rounds. Oh, wow, folks. Like I said, this game is so unique. There is nothing else like it on the market. And like I said, it is crowdfunding right now on Kickstarter. And if you'd like to see a little bit more of it in action, I did a half-hour-long run-through of Workbook Volume 1. There's going to be a link for that down in the show notes. Or heck, you can find that on the Kickstarter page too if you want to go into more detail. And I'll demonstrate how the 2-player mode works. But anyway, folks, that's it. The Tramways Engineer Workbook Volume 2, a must-have for any deck building fan on the go. And folks, I'm going to hand it over to Ruel and the gang. Take it away.
All right. Thank you, Richard. Folks, welcome to the R&R Show episode 90. I'm Ruel, joined by Chris and Ray this time. Welcome back, Ray.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you so much. Very happy to be back.
Yeah. As we said in the pre-show, folks, did you know there's a pre-show where we record this live and we do lots of fun stuff before and after the recording? As we said in the pre-show, we missed you, Ray, and it's way more fun with you here than when you're not here. So thank you for joining us today.
That's my praise, let me say. Boy, howdy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Was the top disappointments last year, and my top disappointment is whenever I'm not on stream with Ray, I'm just a husk of a person. There's nothing that can pick me up. Although maybe that Tramway's engineer handbook, that could. It looks pretty cool.
What a segue.
That is a perfect segue.
Like that? Oh no, it does look really cool though.
Yeah.
I thought, I really like that concept of you lose the cards, right? Like always those choices make it tense. That you don't want to lose access to these abilities that you might have to have down the line. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. It looks really fun.
And, I don't want to lose access to having Ray on this stream.
We never do. That's right.
See, we bring it back around. Look at that. Look at that. It's professional.
Yes.
I will also say I was very pleased to find out that that's a 2-player game. Looking at that, whenever I see a game that comes in sort of like booklet form like that, for some reason my brain just autofill solo games, and I'm not, as you guys know, I'm not a big solo gamer. So it's very cool to learn that that's a 2-player, that can be a 2-player experience.
Yep.
Cool.
I mean, backstage, like as we were watching it, because we watch it along with everybody, Ray went, different colored pens? No, seriously, this is a real big drop.
With like genuine enthusiasm, I was like, oh man, pens.
And I love how it's, as Richard explained, it's basically a deck builder, right? But in a form of this booklet, which is a perfect segue for our topic today. We're looking at one of my favorite mechanisms, deck building. And I know we're all fans of the genre and of the mechanism. And we're going to be going over our top 12 here today, folks. And again, I'm going to reference the extended edition of the show. You can click on the link below to find the extended, where we talk about more games that didn't make our official list, and also some of the games that made our viewers' lists as well. So tons of games to be talking about. And yes, it is deck building the mechanism, not deck building the actual process of building a deck outside of your home, Chris.
That's true. I got confused. I had to rework my list on the fly. It was just all of my favorite contractors. Paul was at the top. Paul was at the top, but
sorry, Paul
doesn't get a shout out. And it's worth noting too that these deck builders are pure deck builders. We decided that this week we're going to do pure deck builders, and next week we're going to do deck builders with an additional element to it. So all of these games are focused just completely on that deck building aspect. And I think that makes it for a little bit more of a fun list. I think we see deck building being incorporated into a lot of things, and it's fun to return to like that core element of just the deck builder, and how much fun can be had just from really working and playing with that singular mechanism, which excites me beyond measure. Seriously, as much as Ray loves her pens, it excites me beyond measure.
Nice. That was a very interesting brief. I will preface at least like my picks for this list a little bit, that I feel like I struggled a little bit. Like I like to just like sit down in front of my collection whenever we get the brief for these, and either just like look at them, kind of go through game by game, or look on BGG sometimes, like see maybe something is classified as this that I wouldn't think of. And I just, for some reason, every game that kept popping to mind was in the latter category, right? Like a kind of deck builder with a board, or a deck builder in the form of a bag builder. And I don't know, it took me a while to really settle on games that are pure deck building. And I don't know, I had like a little bit of like a self-discovery moment where, because I would always consider deck building like in my top 3 favorite mechanics, right? And then I sat down to think of games I own that are just deck building, and I struggled, and I feel like I realized, it's a small tangent, I'm so sorry, but I feel like I realized that I tend to scratch the itch of my desire for deck builders with solo experiences, specifically solo video game experiences. So I play a lot of Slay the Spire, a lot of Inscription, because for me, it's very engaging just as a solo experience of I want to build the best deck possible. And I think that's maybe why I don't own a bunch, because I have all these video games that are basically tabletop games, right? But just structured as a video game that scratch that itch. So I'm very excited. I have a feeling I might actually not know a lot of games on this list. So I'm very excited to learn about some. And if anyone in the comments has any suggestions for like more deck builders to add to my repertoire, I was very embarrassed when I was looking at them. I was like, oh no, I like don't actually own a lot of these. So I'm very excited for this list to see what you guys came up with.
Yeah, that's so interesting, Ray, that you say that, because I was in a similar boat, but I was more like, I prefer deck builders as part of a larger game, as part of deck building with a board.
As well, yeah.
And that's I have more of those in pure deck builders. So this was a nice exercise, like say, hey, let's go back to what deck building is in its purest form, right? Cards, and so it was really interesting. So again, we'll be doing the other list, folks, coming up in a couple of weeks. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But let's get to this list, number 12. Chris, you're going to take it away, my friend.
All right, this is a game that I played for the first time last summer. It's been out for ages. There's multiple sort of iterations of it, but that's a very small, maybe probably the smallest box on this list. I'm going to assume, I'm going to call that right now, and that's Hero Realms. Hero Realms, I had never played before. Hero Realms blew me away. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good as this sort of two-player head-to-head battling, punch each other in the face system. Every person has, I think you can play with more than two players, but it's really a two-player game. Every person has like a certain amount of health, and you are going to be building a deck that is centered around protecting your health and punching the other person's health right in the health noggin. I think that's the technical term. It's in the rule book. You can look in that. It's in the rule. Yeah, they refer to it as the health noggin in Hero Realms, which I also thought was pretty cool and interesting. But yeah, it's great. It's also like there are so many expansions you can get for this, and I don't think I would want many of them because I love it as such a portable, awesome experience. Like the amount of variability that you can get through this deck building, through the differences in your deck with such a small amount of cards is so exciting. And I like that it's very accessible too, because there are 4 different colors and those colors will synergize with each other, you know? So if you're new to games, you can just be like, you know what? I'm just going to get red cards and you'll probably have a good shot at winning. Yep. I think there's a really lovely balance of variability and skill level, and it's really, really good. And it's like $20 or something like that. Like I need to go get it. Next time I'm in a game store and I see it, I will likely just grab it. You know, it's just like one of those things where so small, so compact, really good, because I've been playing a friend's version. But yeah, really enjoyed it. Hero Realms, that's number 12 for sure.
Yeah, a great call, Chris. And I really, once you mentioned, I was like, I think this is like the perfect Chris game here, because you get a ton of bang for your buck in this game, right? I mean, 20.
I do like that.
Yeah, it's totally worth it. And again, it was previously Star Realms, but they leveled it up. They rethemed it, but it's more than a retheme. Though I feel like the cards in this are better. They just synergize better and whatnot. And but it's the same basic gist of, hey, you've got the different factions, and you want to try to align those perfectly, and hopefully you'll draw enough to knock your opponent in the health noggin plenty of times. So great choice, Chris.
Hit it right in that health noggin.
Health noggin. Ray, have you played this one or Star Realms?
I have not. Okay. I'm familiar with this game, but I've never actually played it before.
Cool.
Well, it's one of those things that's always around. Like I feel like it's referenced so often. Yeah. Like I was absolutely in your shoes less than a year ago, right? People would talk about Hero Realms all the time, and I'd be like, I've heard of it for years. Never got into the table. It's just a really solid system. Very simple. Doesn't need to like be too innovative, but what it does really well.
Yeah, nice. Totally. And we should mention too that there is a campaign that you can buy separately, right? Where you take your heroes and go on a multi game campaign, which is really cool. I started that one. Cool. I really enjoyed it, but I think it's like something of Thundar, the Adventures of Thundar or whatever. But cool. it was really cool, and you're leveling up and you're trying to beat the boss monster at the end. It's really neat. So, but in and of itself, it's fantastic. So great choice, Chris. Number 12, starting things off with a bang.
Thank you. It was a great choice, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Well, we'll hear what Richard has to say in a few minutes.
This is very quickly becoming my favorite part of this show, is hearing the delayed Richard roasts of all of our picks. Every 3 picks, we just get to hear him hate on them. Very fun.
Hilarious. Hilarious. Okay. Moving on to number 11. It's going to be my choice for our combined list. This one I chose. This is an older deck builder, and I feel like one of the most underrated deck builders out there, if not the most underrated deck builder out there. A game called Valley of the Kings. Now, this is a deck builder that it's not Hero Realms. You're not battling against each other. It's a multiplayer game, but in this one, you're not trying to destroy health noggins or anything like that. What you're doing is a really interesting thing. I don't see it in many deck builders, but you know how like in deck building, you're trying to trash cards to get to your good cards? Mm-hmm. Here, when you trash cards, those trash cards are called entombed cards. Those are your victory points. So it's a certain point. Yeah, you're going to get rid of these.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's super cool, Ray. And the thing is, it's not just like, hey, you get 5 victory points here, 3 there. No, you get victory points based on the different sets that you're collecting of these different cards. So, you have the blue cards, the yellow cards, whatnot. You're collecting those, and eventually you're going to start trashing them. But at the same time, that weakens your deck. Like, oh, now I don't have much buying power, et cetera, et cetera. And what's really cool is, so like Hero Realms or Star Realms or whatnot, you have that, or Ascension, you have the roll cards where you can buy from. This is a pyramid of cards, so super thematic, right? You could buy from the bottom row, those 3, and then eventually they're gonna, I think the word is crumble, so you buy one for the bottom and the top crumbles down and they fill in the spots on the bottom there, and those are available for the next player or for yourself in the next turn if it's still there. It's so clever, and I love that it's literally, you just start with your 10 starting cards, just like any other deck builder. You play 5, and you do the things, just like any other deck builder. But that whole entombing feature is so cool, because that's where all your victory points are, right in your tomb. But that's also where the cards you need to do stuff are, too. So, again, like other deck builders, it's got that whole, like, timing thing. When do you start going for the points, and when do you start stripping your deck down? It's so good. It's so underrated. And for the solo player friends of mine out there, folks, this has a wonderful solo game. Super easy to implement. It was funny because I think fans of the game actually came up with it, and AEG liked it so much they worked with the developers saying, let's make this an official thing. So it's now officially a solo game. Yeah. So Valley of the Kings, folks, check it out. I think it's super underrated, and that's why it's our number 11 deck building game.
Sweet, great choice.
I'm obsessed with this pyramid mechanic. I think that is just the most. That's so innovative and so clever. And I mean, I know it's a relatively superficial comparison, but it reminds me of Seven Wonders Duel a little bit, where you can kind of anticipate. There's an element of trying to block out what someone else can and can't take by working through that pyramid structure. I think that's really clever. And it also very thematic. The idea of like the pyramid crumbling and the entombing, the idea that your cards that you're shedding or that you're discarding turn into your points is really, really interesting. Do you know if this is in print still? Because I would love to try it.
Ray, message me afterwards, because I may have an extra copy because I have like the super deluxe copy that they came out with a couple of years ago, and I think I might have kept my old copy. I would totally just send it to you if I had
God.
Yeah.
I'd be very, very grateful.
Yeah, no problem.
It just sounds really cool.
It's a really cool game. Yeah. So Valley of the Kings at number 11. All right. Let's I'm sorry, Chris, did you have something to say? My bad.
No. No. You know me. I don't have anything good to say. I will. The only thing I'll say is that, like Ray, I am very appreciative of a good pyramid scheme. And if we're talking about sending things later on, I've got a really good deal for both of you. We can talk about it after.
Send us a Facebook message.
Yeah. It's really.
Hey babe, what's up?
I got these creams. And lotions that I've been. You can you would pay me, but then anyone who you got, you would get money for. So like, it's a really good money making opportunity.
That sounds wonderful.
We'll talk about it. Yeah, we'll talk about it after.
I'll send you my PIN number, my credit card info.
Yeah, Social Security.
Nice. So as we get ready to fall into Chris's pyramid scheme, let's move on to number 10. Ray, that's all you.
All right, our number 10 is a little game called Paperback, which I think I am too dyslexic to play, which is why it is 10 on this list, because I think I am very, very bad at it. But this game works really well to introduce people to the concept of deck building. So basically, if you've never heard of deck building, or not deck building before, I don't know why you're here. If you've never heard of Paperback before, this is Tim Fowler's word building, deck building game. It's also gone on to be Paperback Adventures and Hardback. I have not played either of those two. I've only ever played the original Paperback, which is why it's on my list, but I've heard that the other two iterations on this formula are fantastic as well. A relatively simple formula, at least in Paperback. It's a deck building game where every time you're going to draw a hand of cards and then try to make a word with those cards, and then you're going to try, depending on the letters that you put in your word, each of them has a value. You total the value, and you use that to buy better and stronger letter combinations that often have powers that might double your score or might let you draw more cards. And your goal is to complete various genres of novels and to create really long words. I am very, very dyslexic. I struggle with this game massively, but I love it as an entry point to the genre because deck building is very ubiquitous across board games now. You can use it as a shorthand and everyone knows what you're talking about. But as I've mentioned before a lot on this channel, I spend a lot of time introducing people to the hobby. I spend a lot of time teaching new players how to play games. And this is such an intuitive way to learn deck building. Like if you go back to some of the older classic board game or deck builders, they could be a little bit obtuse. This is so clear, so easy. And also I find that word games are something that often appeal to non-gamers. I find that gamers tend to be more analytical minded people. They like the maths of it all. And I spend a lot of time trying to get the more linguistic people into games. And this is such a great entry point for that. And also there's just not a lot of strategic word games. Word games almost always are party games in general, big group party games. And it's really nice to have a game in my repertoire that is a strategy word game. And that's a fantastic deck builder. It's a very relatively simple deck builder, but it's super solid. I played it again recently just to kind of remind myself what I loved about it. And it really does hold up. And I know that the hardback and paperback adventures are supposed to be even more amazing, but this is the one I'm familiar with, which it's why it's on our list.
Nice.
Yeah, great choice. I know, Ruel, you love paperback adventures too.
Yeah,
right?
this, like anything paperback, I love. I'm a word fan. I'm a word geek. I absolutely love this game. I would call this, so Ray, you haven't played hardback or paperback adventures. So hardback, I would say it's more Star Realms than this. And I would call paperback more Scrabble than a deck builder. So if you're a word fan, I would say, hey, get paperback. But if you're a deck building fan and you know the genre, then I would say hardback is for you. And then if you want the best of both worlds, if you basically want, my friends and I call it Spell the Spire instead of Slay the Spire, get paperback adventures. Yeah, because that's a roguelike.
That's very cute.
I love all these games. And this was on my short list as well. And I'm glad someone put this because I was like really struggling. Like I should have put it on my list, but then once I saw it, I was like, okay, Ray, you got my back. You're
I didn't
awesome.
expect this to be on Ray's list. I would have more expected it to be on Ruel's.
Yeah.
I know you like it so much. I felt maybe Ray pushed it out of yours.
Yeah, no, this...
I might have.
Nice.
Yeah, and I'm so glad it's here because I absolutely love and adore this game. So, as I was saying before we went live, Ray, you were the smartest, greatest game reviewer ever. You have impeccable taste, my friend.
Impeccable taste.
Thank you. I don't think anyone's ever said that about me. So I appreciate it.
Well, there it is. Okay, well, let's get ready for the fun part of the show. Richard is going to roast us for a couple of minutes, so we'll see. I think he's going to be okay with these picks, honestly.
I think he's going to be fine with these picks.
I think I'm safe. I think he likes paperback. I don't know about the two of you, but I know he likes paperback, so I'm safe.
We're going to find out. Okay.
We're going to find out.
Okay, Richard, let's hear what you got.
All right. I love talking about deck builders. I love playing deck builders. One of my favorites. And those are three very good choices. I have to say, Chris, Hero Realms. We're starting off simpatico here. I mean, not that it would make my top list. And in fact, actually, Hero Realms is not even the best Realms game. Actually, the best one is Cthulhu Realms, which sadly nobody remembers. It took the core ideas of Star Realms and improved on it in so many ways. But Hero Realms, I think, really stands out because it's cooperative, or at least you can play cooperative. And that's the best way to realm it up, I think. And, Ray, welcome back. It is good to have you back. And I can't believe you ended up snagging paperback. You like paperback more than Ruel does? Anyway, it's a phenomenal choice. One of the all-time greats. I think at one point I put it on my top 10 must-have games. Although these days, I'm really kind of torn between paperback and paperback adventures. But either one, equally phenomenal experiences. And Ruel, Valley of the Kings. Excellent choice also. It reminds me that when I did my original top 10 deck builders about half a decade ago, I didn't put Valley of the Kings on, but I did put Dale of Merchants on. And at the time, I did mention Valley of the Kings as an alternative to Dale of Merchants because they both feature one of my favorite breakthroughs in deck building design, deck deconstruction, that you spend so much time building up your deck, but then to win, you have to rip the thing apart. The thing that you've built and that you love must come apart to actually score points. I always think that's a brilliant idea, too. So, this is a great start, 12, 11, and 10. But now, let's move on to number 9 on our combined list, Asonia. And Oh, I feel bad even putting this on the list because this is very hard for people to get their hands on, but it is so good. Players are controlling an unnamed, or no, I think it does have a name. It's a fictional European medieval society. I think there's like hints of supernatural stuff, but for the most part, this is just high politics trying to earn the most influence so that you can basically be the power behind the power that runs things. And at first glance, it's got a lot of the type of typical stuff you would expect out of deck building, born of the Dominion formula. But this game does so much, and if there's one key thing that makes it stand head and shoulders above so many other deck builders, it is control. This game, I've often referred to deck builders as kind of like broken engine building games. Because, hey, my deck is an engine that will do a bunch of stuff, but I never know what it's going to do. It's kind of completely out of my control because I never know what's going to spit up. And don't get me wrong, Ausonia is still a deck of cards. You're drawing cards, hoping to get the right combo of stuff. But in this game, you have so much more control over your cards, deciding whether to keep them from hand to hand or play them. Also, deck thinning is a big part of deck building, and one of the coolest things about Ausonia is it makes it so easy to thin out your deck. There are several ways to get the weaker cards out, to make room so you can get to the better cards faster. None more powerful than the fact that you can actually take cards that you're thinning out of your deck, combine them together to become permanent powers that you'll have for the rest of the game. Like on screen right there, I have permanently created a red mana source or a red jewel by getting it out of my deck, plus some other stuff, so that I've permanently got that on hand. So I'll never be short on red gems in the future when I need them to pay for stuff. It's so good, and that's just one example of so many different ways this kind of reinvents the core idea while still being true. This is a pure deck builder through and through, and it's got so much replayability baked in, more so than most games of its ilk. And I mean, this is it right here. It's just a little box, but there's so much baked into it. I feel so bad. I hope someday this is going to get a reprint so more deck building lovers can get their hands on it. If you want to know more about it, folks, I've got a run through for it on the channel. By the way, it also has a phenomenal solo mode. Just knocks that out of the park too. I just can't speak highly enough about our combined number 9, Ausonia. And back to you guys.
Wow, I think I've heard Richard talk about this game, but I have never seen this out in the wild. I would love to play it, though. It looks fantastic. I love that idea of thinning out your deck, but using those cards to, become stronger, right? And wow, it looks really cool. But darn it, Richard, I don't know where to get this game.
I know that was the first thing I thought too.
As a deck builder,
yeah. So one of these days, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm so upset that it's so hard to come by.
Yeah,
because it looks fantastic.
Well, let's move on. Hopefully, Chris has got something that we can actually have access to. Well, but we'll see. Chris, you got our number 8?
Yeah, our number 8 game, it's a game from the 1700s. There's only one copy of it. It was carved in stone as well, so it's a bit hard to shuffle. But if you do the smash shuffle, it works. You get a finely ground powder of the stones, and then you got to put it together, kind of like a puzzle deck builder combo. Nice. But they revamped it. They took that and they made it accessible for everybody to find, which is our number 8, which is Epic Spell Wars Annihilageddon. Epic Spell Wars Duel of the Battle Wizards at Mount Firestick Annihilageddon. There's a full name. There's an Annihilageddon 2, and then there's an Annihilageddon 3, which is like called Satanic Panic or something like that. It is a really, really good game. This is from Cryptozoic. So Cryptozoic are known for the DC deck builder, which I don't think is that good, but I know a lot of people like it. And I don't think it's that good because this does the DC deck builder, but makes it good. This takes all the lessons learned in that DC deck builder and puts it into a more streamlined package. And I think all the expansions that have kind of come out for DC deck builder that might do the things that Epic Spell War does, you could just get in the base game of Epic Spell Wars. You're just trying to, again, this is about punching your opponents in the face as well. But your opponents, when they die, they're not out of the game. right? You just get a dead wizard token, which gives you negative points at the end of the game. So it's balancing like attack points, which you can use against your opponents, and you can also use them against sort of big bads, which you then can incorporate into your deck. I think thematically it works a lot better. In DC Deck Builder, you're like defeating the villains, and then for some reason the villains work for you. That's never sort of gelled with me. But in this, the theme is all like zany, explosive. If you've ever played the Epic Spell Wars like original game, it was like comboing cards together to just create a spell, and then it was a big sort of take that fest. I played it early on in like my board gaming hobby journey, and I was like, yeah, it's fun, but this is actually like that theme and that zaniness applied mechanically in a really fun, interesting way. Different types of cards, but just it all works really, really well. From quite a few people who work at Cryptozoic. I was looking at the designer section, but Matt Hyra, who does another game that I am a huge fan of, which won't be appearing on this list, but might be appearing on the next list. It is also, I just think he's very good at what he does. So yeah, really, really solid. And like the theme might put people off because it's a bit crude or bombastic, or people will find it crude, right? There's drawings of wizards getting spells shot at their butts and stuff like that, like it's that sort of thing. And as the iterations go on, it just gets cruder and more like out there. But if you want to engage with a theme like that, or that doesn't bother you mechanically, I was really surprised at how this worked, because mechanically, like the theme and the other game, I think is just fine, and so I expected just fine things from this. But I actually really enjoy it, and really makes you not have to play DC Deck Builder ever again, because this is just better, just objectively better.
Nice. I played the original Epic Spell Wars, and Chris, like you, I thought it was fine. It was whatever.
Fine.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Again, the theme is something like you feel like almost like a 12-year-old would come up with, but it's hilarious, right? With the stuff coming out of butts and stuff. But this one seems really interesting. I've not played this game, and it sounds fantastic. Like, so you are doing the whole health noggin thing, right? Trying to knock each other
health
out.
Noggin.
Yeah.
Punch each other in the health noggin.
Nice.
But like you're gonna die a couple times,
right?
And it's about dying the least amount.
Yeah.
I like that idea of player elimination as well. Like you're still getting points in your cards as well. You can die more than other people and still win. But I like that there's some targeting, there's some negative consequences, but it's not game breaking. You don't feel that player elimination, so you do get a taste of it without having to actually engage with it fully, where somebody sits out. And I think I really, really appreciate that aspect of it too, because the stakes are there, but they're just a part of it, which is really nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great call. Okay, that's our number 8, folks. I want to see if I can say Epic Spell Wars Annihilageddon.
Yeah, I gotta say that name, I immediately wrote it off when you said Annihilageddon. I was like, come on, good God. But that actually looks really solid. With the zany artwork and everything, it worked. But man, just hearing that, I would have passed right by that because it sounds ridiculous. But there's a way to do ridiculous that I really enjoy. Yeah. And it looks like it is 100%
it's quite good.
that.
Yeah. It is quite good. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Okay, let's move on to our number 7. I'll be taking this one. This is a game that's the total opposite theme of what we just saw, Epic Spell Wars Annihilageddon.
Okay.
This is, I'm gonna call this out right now, folks. This is going to be the cutest deck builder on this list, by far, if not one of the cutest games. It's a game called Fort. And Chris, you are super cute as well, Chris.
That's not what I was wishing for.
Well, I saw you with the glasses,
I'm glad
man.
that you went there. I'm very glad that that's the what I bring out of people.
Exactly. Fort is fantastic. Now, this is a redo of a game by Grant Rahdo called SPQF. And that game was super clever, but the graphic design, to be blunt, was terrible. It was trying to be too artsy in my book, and it placed art above functionality. And Fort took everything about that game and made it better. Number one, it got rid of that artsy look and whatever and replaced it with, just like in Root, this super cute world. Folks, it doesn't get much better than this theme. It is kids playing in the neighborhood building their forts. And oh my gosh, I fell in love with the theme right off the bat, and the gameplay is solid. What this does is takes deck building and strips it down and makes it like, I don't know how it's super tactical and just super fun. Like you get a deck, your hand of cards, you're going to play them for the actions, right? You have your resources and whatnot. But at the end of your turn, which is so cool, it goes to your yard. So the kids go to the yard and other players can, play those cards. It's so cool. And then it's eventually going to get discarded. You're going to use cards to level up other cards by using their resources. That's our friend Tim Chuan. They're doing the video for Fort as a guest spot on Rahdo's channel. I love everything about this. The gameplay is so easy. And, Ray was talking about a paperback being a really good intro to deck building. I would say that Fort is as well, because it's literally, hey, you got a hand of cards, just play one and then do one of the actions, and then the rest of us can follow. So you're always engaged. Like, as long as, you have the right color, right symbol, then you could follow the main player's action and do stuff as well. The resources, the best things ever. The resources are pizza and toys. I mean, come on, who doesn't want to use pizza and toys for resources? And that's going to level up your fort, and eventually you're going to reach the end game goal, which is 25. Thank you, Tim. It's a race to 25 points, sort of like a little game called Root. Now, this game is not Root, but it is still a race to that. It's that race to the threshold of points, 25 in this case. This is a fantastic game. Michelle and I love this, and we actually played with the expansion too. The expansion doesn't get any much better than dogs and cats. So you add dogs and cats to the game, and those do different things. I love everything about this game, and I have since it came out a couple of years ago. It's much better than the original game, but it just took it took a very solid game and made it an all-timer for me. And that's why, from Leader Games, it is Fort, our number 7.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go, Ray.
I was just going to say, I had no idea that this was a republished game. I was looking at that SPQF on BGG as you were talking. I love little tidbits of lore like that. I had no idea, because Fort's is just so wonderful.
Yeah.
It's such a good theme. It's such a good re-theme. I mean, I'm looking at that original game, and the art is pretty, yes, but I can totally see your point about the graphic design being obtuse.
Obtuse is a perfect word. Thank you, Ray. That's like the perfect way to describe that game. Again, it was brilliant. I remember my friend, he backed the original, got the super deluxe version. We played it, and the whole time I was like, this is a really good game, but I will never play it again, because I'm like having trouble finding all the symbols and just trying to... Yeah.
That kills a good game.
Totally killed it for me. The accessibility, right? And then Fort came along, and they streamlined a couple of things, and they just made it bright and colorful, and just, it's a joy to play. I will play this anytime, folks. I love Fort.
Yeah, it's really solid. I honestly forgot about the deck building element to it. I've only played it once, and it was a couple of years ago. But I love the pizza and toys, and I love the follow mechanism is one of my favorite mechanisms in board gaming. And so that's what stood out to me, and also stealing kids from each other's yards. Now that I say that out loud, maybe that's the wrong way to phrase it.
Probably not the best way to phrase it.
Stealing friends, bad blood, like Taylor Swift, just stealing friends from each other's yard until they got bad blood all around. That's the new re-theme of Fort. It's coming in 2025. The Taylor's version.
The Swifties,
but it's a great game, really great. Big bang for your buck. Big game, small package.
Another one.
That's what I like.
Exactly. Nice. Okay, so that's our number 7. We're gonna turn it over to Ray for our number 6.
All right. So for number 6, I did a game called Abandon All Artichokes, which we've discussed a little bit already. This idea of deck deconstruction, or the aspect of shedding cards, is a very crucial part of deck builders, right? In your traditional concept of a deck builder, you're often trying to get rid of your original hand because it's usually not very good, or if you get negative cards, you're trying to get rid of those. And this game is just all about that. It's an incredibly simple, easy game where you start with a hand of 10 artichokes, or a deck of 10 artichokes. You're going to draw 5 cards, and you're going to be grabbing other new vegetables to add to your deck. Those vegetables will allow you to do various actions to get rid of your artichokes. And your whole goal in Abandon All Artichokes is to, at some point in the game, draw a hand of 5 cards that has no artichokes. It's super simple. It's a little bit on the simple side, but it's such a fun twist on the deck building mechanic, this idea of deck deconstruction. You're trying to just get rid of these artichokes in any way that you can, or just getting a ton of vegetables, because you can also sort of go the other way, where if you're not having luck shedding your artichokes, you could just compile a bunch of other vegetables in hopes that they eventually outweigh the number of artichokes in your hand. This is a game that I played back in 2020 when it first came to Gen Con. Really loved it, and then sort of just, I wouldn't say forgot about it, but it just sort of left my rotation. And I was playing a bunch of old deck builders for this list to try to remember what I loved. And this one just, I don't know, it just struck me again with how simple and clever it is. I played a bunch of it on BGA, which was a really fun time. It was so sad. I was losing really badly in my games of this on BGA to the point where someone like got into the comments and was like giving me strategy tips for Mandel Artichokes, which was a very cute interaction show. So shout out to whoever that was on BGA who was helping me remember how to play this game that I haven't played in like 4 years. But yeah, it's super cute, super simple. I like the idea of deck shedding. It's a nice introduction to that concept for newer players. It's not a super heavy strategy game, but I really like it for what it is.
I 100% agree. I love this game, Ray. Again, another one that was on my short list, but I'm so glad it made it. Mm-hmm. By the way, that video you're watching, folks, that's when I first started streaming on Twitch. And it's
that's
like,
baby.
Yeah. So that's me and my family, my wife Michelle, and my stepdaughter Lauren, and we would go on during the pandemic. And I literally had an old laptop for my face camera, and then my smartphone. It was an old smartphone that I duct taped to a little like a arm, and we had this thing. It was a running joke about halfway through the stream, it would always die because the battery didn't last long enough. So hashtag Team Dead Camera was the hashtag.
Oh my god, amazing!
Yeah, a fun little story about this game. I got to play a prototype of it when Michelle and I went up to Seattle, and Emma Larkins, the designer at the time, I don't know if she's still there, but she showed it to us. I was like, oh my gosh, this seems really cool. But the art wasn't there yet. It was just, okay, this seems really cool. And then when the final version came out, I was like, okay, this is brilliant. And I remember her showing us like this list that she had. And as a design challenge, what she did was she wrote titles A to Z, and she tried to use as much alliteration for each one. So it was like abandon all artichokes, B, whatever. And she just took that, and that's what inspired the game. Abandon all was the titles. So it was like that's sort of like looking backwards. Yeah, it was really cool. So I love Emma Larkin. She's super cool, and great call, Ray. This is one of those games we were talking about paperback, what I think is a really good introduction to deck building too, or deck deconstruction as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I love also like that alliterative name is really cute. The art is really cute. It comes in a little artichoke shaped tin, which is really, really cute and really clever. Yeah, so I'm glad you like it as well. Yeah, I'm really glad that this list like prompted me to go revisit it because I hadn't played it in a while and I don't really know why. And I was really glad that I got to revisit it.
Mm-hmm. The artichoke shaped tin is what has put me off about this game.
No, you're not a tin guy?
Well, I'm not a tin guy, but also I feel like games that normally come in that packaging are just more gimmicky than I personally resonate with. Yeah. But then hearing you describe it, I was like, oh, it seems like there's like a nice little filler game in there.
It's just like a solid deck shedding game. Yeah.
And I never would have considered it because I had wrote it off completely until you brought it up. So now it has consideration.
So the game is from Game Right. They do a bunch of tin games, right? It's like Sushi Go in a tin. What was the Forbidden Island, right? That's in a tin.
Yeah, Forbidden Island is in a tin,
Even just you talking about tins, I hate tins. I hate them. They don't slide
on the shelf. Around to you hate tins.
Well, I do in terms of like the shelf accessibility of it.
I think part of it is that Game Right orients a little bit more towards like that mass market like entry level, and for that audience it makes it more of like a collectible, right? It's not, I don't think they're necessarily gearing towards people who have shelves of board games where like the shelf presence matters. It's more of just like this fun, like almost more like the toy market kind of angle to it. But so I definitely I can respect your disdain for tins, but I think in this case it's
honestly
cute and fun,
it keeps your game without dings and dents. People who like those, getting them in the mail, get a tin. You're much more secure. But
so true. Okay.
Anyway, I'm excited to hear Richard hate my picks. So let's turn it over.
All right, Richard.
Boy.
All right, we're continuing to have some excellent choices. Rel, Fort, good call. I liked it a lot. Ultimately did end up keeping it one because there's that small percentage of just nuke the kids from orbit cards. I don't know why they're there. I know a lot of people say the game is really cutthroat because players are constantly stealing from each other, but that's not the case at all. You don't own these kids. If you don't play with the kids, i.e. the cards in your deck, they'll end up playing in somebody else's backyard because that's just the nature of childhood friendships. That never bothered us, but there were some cards that were just kind of like, oh, what, did you just run the kid out of town? Where did the kid go? And also, I do think this is probably a game that's going to be better for higher player counts, so there's more opportunity for following and all of that. But still, wonderful game, so thematically strong and very, very charming. And Ray, Abandon All Artichokes. That is a phenomenal choice. I really, really respected the heck out of that game. Just trying to get rid of those artichokes as fast as you can. Such a clean, simple, elegant, fast-playing game. You could teach anybody. And in fact, the reason we don't have our game anymore is because we did play with some in-laws, and it was so good it made a great gift for them. So I really do kind of regret getting rid of it because it's just absolutely fantastic. And Chris, I don't know anything about... I know the Epic Spell Wars, series. I didn't know there was actually a deck builder in the series, and I'm sure I'm not going to have any interest in it at all because I'm sure it's just non-stop wall-to-wall players beating each other over the head with cards. But I look forward to hearing more. Certainly, the game is visually striking. That's the one thing I know about the Epic Spell Wars series. But anyway, I've got one I'd like to talk about. It's number 5 on our combined list. It's Imperium Horizons. And here's Maggie doing a run-through for it on the channel. I previously had covered Classics and Legends, the first 2, and then Horizons is the third. And Horizons is when this game truly ascends into upper echelon, greatest modern designer card games of all time. Up there with your Race for the Galaxies and all the rest of it. And it is a deck builder. At its heart, you are running an ancient civilization, trying to lift it out of its early days to where it becomes a full empire. And gosh, where to even start with this game? It is by far the heaviest game that any of us are talking about today. It's heavier than anything I talked about when I did my top 10, half a decade ago. It's up there with like a Mage Knight level, but without, the board. This is just a pure, in-your-face, break your brain. It is so rich and so complex. And the rules are complex. The powers on your cards are complex. This game will put you through the ringer, but it is so satisfying. Whichever ancient civilization you play, they're all incredibly asymmetric, having completely different ways to go about doing the main deck building elements of the game. And a big part of this is deck building. Seeing the market of cards that are out there, adding the right ones to your deck that will help you, for most civilizations, burn through your deck as fast as you can. That's what you're trying to do. And of course, you can do that by thinning out cards. It has this brilliant thematic idea of how you thin out cards because you can, garrison them. If you've got land cards in play and you've got cards in your hand, like, I don't want to use this card anymore, you can garrison them, basically just, exile them out to, the countryside and just get rid of them. They're under those cards. You might be able to get them back, but they're problem solved, or at least a problem for another day. Because a lot of times when you're grabbing new cards in this game to add to your deck, and again, the powers in this game are so complex. Maggie's literally having to stop midway through and remind herself of how all this stuff works. Look at all those icons. So many icons. And I say this to warn some people away, folks. This is so far above and beyond what you expect in a deck building experience because, this is high end of depth and complexity. And you've got to know that going in. Also, it can be an incredibly long game. And depending on which civilization you're playing, some of Imperium can be a very cutthroat game as well, which is why ultimately I didn't stick with the original Imperium Classics and Legends, even though at the time I thought they were easily one of, if not the best game I'd played that year. But now I got to circle back to Horizons, because Horizons, the third in the series, adds a new element, which is trade between players. That you can basically turn your swords into plowshares, and instead of trying to, oh, too bad I raised all your land and now you don't have any place to, or whatever it is you might be doing, now you can open up trade, and when I activate these trade actions, I get benefits and so do you. And that is so much more satisfying, and I love they put in enough cards to retroactively take the aggressive in-your-face jerk cards from the original versions out and replace them with positive interaction. I love that. I also love that I do think maybe one of the most commonly laid criticisms on the Imperium's doorstep is it's long. It's an incredibly long game. When Jen and I were playing the originals, man, I mean, we could not get a game done in under like 2.5 hours. We are slow players, bear that in mind, and those 2.5 hours just melt away because you're so engrossed. It is so deep and so rich. And when I'm waiting for your turn, that's okay because I am working a million miles a minute trying to figure out how to use all these cards and how to combine them in 20 billion different ways that I could do because there's so much flexibility and so much that's going on here. But I love the fact that for Imperium Horizons, they also introduced Express mode that basically lets you skip past the early days. Take a bunch of cards and say, oh, you know what, these have already moved on to the next stage, so we're that much closer to the end of the game. I mean, it cuts the game down by like 15-20%, and that is very appreciated. And, I hope to see that more and more from publishers who realize we don't always have 2+ hours to play your really heavy Euro game, please. So, Imperium Horizons, I am so happy. And I mean, this is definitely a long-term keeper for me, but with one exception. Because in the same way that Imperium Horizons, for my taste, stands on the shoulders and so greatly improves on classics and legends, the designers, Nigel Bucknell and Dave Turczi, they're not done. And it hasn't been announced yet, so I can't really say much other than I spent a good afternoon playing another game that the two of them have got coming out later this year from WizKids. It's Star Trek themed. And anybody who loves Imperium, I think, is going to find a lot to love. Oh, and I talked too long. Oh, dear. Sorry about that. But anyway, so I should that's probably YouTube telling me, stop talking. You're not supposed to, I've been told I can say it's Star Trek themed. It's from WizKids. It's from Dave and Nigel. And it builds on Imperium. And, oh my gosh, folks. If it delivers on everything I hope it'll do, it'll probably make it into my top 10 games of all time as a diehard Star Trek fan. So watch this space, watch this channel. I've already been in touch with WizKids and they've assured me I'll be getting one of the first copies off the boat, and I cannot wait to try it. But in the meantime, I cannot stop singing the praises enough for number 5 on our combined list, Imperium Horizons. And retroactively, Imperium Legends and Classics after you use the trade system in there. Okay, back to y'all.
Okay, Imperium Horizons. Now, I'm going to admit that I have a copy of this, but I have not played it. I know it's, like Richard said, it's going to take a while. It takes a long time, and I was sort of put off by that. However, him talking about the Express mode, like, I'm all for that. Sort of like Terraforming Mars, give me Prelude, or actually give me what's the small box
Ares
one?
Expedition? Or...
Thank you, Ares Expedition, yeah. So I'm curious about this game. I know it's highly regarded. Obviously, Richard loves it, but give me something a little more manageable in time. So I'm genuinely curious about the Star Trek edition that Richard's not supposed to talk about, apparently.
Yeah, I mean,
my little publisher sensors went off. I was like, I don't know if he's supposed to be talking about that. Oh no!
See,
but then he
Ray,
said he was.
That's how you spoil something, okay? That's how you give a link.
I'll take notes.
Take notes. We need some more from the off. Come on, everything that we get in the pre-show, it's not good enough. Although we will keep happening. Everybody go watch the pre-show and post-show as well. It's this, but longer. Kind of like Imperium.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I gotta say, the more I don't want to be negative about it, but the more Richard talked about it, the less I was like, I don't think this game is for me. I've never played it, but he's like, there's so many icons, you're constantly having to look them up. I'm like, oh no. And then he's like, and it takes 3 hours. And I'm like, oh no. Like, those are all just like, I like complex games, but there's nothing that grinds my gears more than games that are just like not thesauruses, but indexes where you're just constantly like referencing symbols. Nothing makes me like, nothing takes the fun out of a game for me more than that. So maybe he was exaggerating, but that's probably why I've never played it, is I've probably come across it before and been like, and maybe not for me.
Yeah, and I think that's totally fair, Ray. Like, I'm the same way. Like, I'm okay with icons, but make it intuitive, so I don't always have to like keep looking like, oh, okay, this looks like a like food, so obviously I'm going to use that to feed, so Yeah,
I'm not averse to icons, but if there's so many to the point where you're constantly having to look them up, for me that just slows down, especially if the game is already quite heavy and quite long. It's probably not one for me, but it's cool. I didn't really know much about it though, so it's nice to learn about it.
Totally. Okay. So we've covered the gamut. We've gone from Abandoned Artichokes to Imperium Horizon. So
basically the same game.
The whole spectrum, yeah. But let's see what Chris has got for us at number 4.
All right, number 4 is the best 4th place deck builder of all time. Nice. It's cooperative. You no longer are punching each other in the face or the health noggins. You're punching a big old baddie nasty in the health noggins. And this is a game that I first played the legacy version of and would highly recommend the legacy version, but I would highly recommend, honestly, any version. There are a ton out there. This is Aeon's End. This is a game where the tagline or the gimmick of it also doesn't matter whatsoever, like Cat in the Box. I think we were talking about that in the pre-show. But the whole conceit is, this is a deck builder where you never shuffle your deck. No, that's not the exciting part here. The exciting part, I mean, it's fine. It's just fine. But like, the exciting part here is the gameplay and the cards and the feel of the game. There's so much variability with the monsters that you're facing. You're playing these breach mages where you will fight against a big bad, and you have to balance spells that deal attack to the big bad or the little minions, or balance things that help you build up an income in your deck. And balancing those things, having one player who is like the income deck and another player who's a big spell deck. Every character has their own special powers and these special charges that you can charge up and fire off. The abilities all feel really cool, and that's an incredible feat considering across the 8 or 9 different boxes and expansions of Aeon's End, there are probably 8 or 9 times 6 at least, so 54, 60 different characters that you can play, and all of them I'm always excited to play. I have not played all of them, but I have a friend who has pretty much everything Aeon's End, and there's so much content that you can never get bored of it. And what's kind of fun is this really works with a static market. So you only have 9 cards. The whole puzzle of the game is that you're trying to figure out how to take down this boss, this asymmetric boss, using these 9 cards. And so each box in itself, I wouldn't suggest everybody go out and get like the entire collection, but Aeon's End Legacy was a really awesome jumping in point because it introduced every single like little bitty mechanic. Now you have charges, now you have these things. It was a really good thing. And now in their sort of later campaign boxes, like Aeon's End Past and Present, although I think that one's an expansion, anything in the new age, that's one to look out for. They have like mini campaigns built in where you can unlock different cards and play with different market sets, essentially giving you different games, different characters, and then at the end you just have a fully mixable game. Really well structured. Can't speak more highly about this game, and it's just deck building. Only cards you have to manage. That's pretty much it, rather than other elements. So yeah, it's great. Really, really good. It's my friend Zach's like number 2 game of all time, and it's really fun. I enjoy it quite a bit, and can't speak more highly of it.
Quick question, Chris. Have you played Astro Knights? Isn't Astro Knights?
It's the same game.
It's the same game. Okay, I was wondering, like,
game.
It's just a retheme. That's it.
It's slightly different. Astro Knights is a little bit easier. So Aeon's End can be very hard, depending upon the synergy of the markets. The more expansions you have, the harder it is, because they're kind of designed to synergize against like the baddies. And then if you're using a set from one and then facing a baddie against the other, it tends to be a little bit harder. Astro Knights, the main difference is you don't have a fixed market, you have a variable market. So there's only one of each card, but there's sort of 6 cards that are up in categories, and you cycle through them. But I also found Astro Knights to be a little bit easier as well. Okay. So if you don't want to get fully in on Aeon's End, or if the amount of content in Aeon's End also overwhelms you, Astronauts is a really good jumping off point as well.
Okay.
I think I prefer Aeon's End because I like things that are a little bit more challenging.
Yeah.
I will opt for that versus Astronauts. But I think both are really good, just depending if it really comes down to theme. Honestly, so my buddy Brandon, who I play this a lot, likes the space theme more than the Aeon's End theme, and so he likes Astronauts more. But that's really what it comes down to, for sure.
Yeah, I was wondering. Yeah, thank you for that. I was wondering because Astronauts just showed up at my door recently, and I was like, okay, I have Aeon's End. Do I need to open this one? Right. And so it's like, okay, yeah. I mean, I do like the space theme one, but I was wondering if anything changed. But it sounds like it'd be my jam. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the variable markets a lot as the switch, right? I actually like that change from Aeon's End because I like seeing the newness. It feels a little bit more like you're not as constrained. There's more excitement of things popping up. So I do really like that about Astronauts. But I think the challenge from Aeon's End comes with just taking a random set of 9 and being like, okay, how do we make this work? Which is I find very exciting.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Okay. We've got 3 left, folks. Number 3 is going to be me. And this is something I didn't think I would ever say about a deck building game. But the game I'm about to talk about is it's dripping in theme. Like, it's super thematic, which I didn't expect. That's what
it's called. I was like, drip. What game starts with dripping? Yeah. I was like, I need to hear about this.
I was a little concerned.
Yeah. This one... so I'm a Star Wars fan, so of course this is going to make my list at some point, and it is Star Wars, a deck building game, and I love this one for so many reasons. Of course, Star Wars, yay! It's got all the good stuff you like about Star Wars, but really what it is now, some folks have said it's just Star Realms, but in Star Wars clothing. No, it's not. It's way more than that. So what it's done, instead of 4 factions, you have 2. You have the Empire and you have the Rebel Scum. And you're going to play one of those factions. And those cards that come up in the Galaxy row there, you're going to either, recruit them into your deck, or if it's a faction that you're playing against, you could pew, pew, pew right in the health noggin and knock them out. So now it's a little bit of take that. Your opponent cannot recruit that ship or that person into their crew now. So you've done something and you get you may get a reward, which is fun. And what's also cool is no matter what side you're on, there's the scum and villainy of the universe, those bounty hunters. So they'll go to either side. Whoever recruits them first will get to add, hey, maybe Jabba the Hutt's going to join you, or, whatnot. I love the theme of this, of course, obviously, as being a Star Wars fan. But the gameplay is so sharp. It's Star Realms, but with this really cool twist of the Force. Now, the Force is what binds us all together, yada, yada, yada. But what it does is it's a tug of war. So if you have the Force on your side, then certain cards in your deck are going to be stronger. If your opponent has the Force on their side, some of their cards are going to be stronger. And if you have the Force all the way to your side, it's like I think a three steps or whatever, then you'll get an extra resource to spend on your turn. I love that. It's an ongoing battle, not only in the Force, but also on the play area here. You're trying to knock out your opponent's bases, and it can either be 3 bases or up to 5, depending on how long you want the game. I always play 5 bases because I like to see the fruits of my deck building labor, manifest itself. And it's like, hey, here's that cool combo I got. And I'm going to tell you, as a Star Wars geek, fan for life, there's nothing better than playing on one side, such as the Rebels, and getting the Han Solo card to play with Chewbacca card, and then the Millennium Falcon flies in. It's the greatest thing ever because they all synergize. You're going to get extra cards, you're going to get extra pew pew pews for the health noggin, and oh my gosh, it's so much fun. I absolutely love it. There's Cassian Andor. We've got Rogue One in here. It's for Star Wars geeks, it's heaven, and it plays so smooth, just like Star Realms. But I would say it's a notch above that because of the way the cards synergize, and also that tug of war with the Force. And that's why it's our number 3 game, deck building game, Star Wars, the deck building game.
Yeah,
I love how much you love this.
Thank you. Yeah.
I could just listen to you talk. Like, I love how much you love this game. It made me very happy.
It's sort of like going to a Dodgers game. That's how much I love this
Sort of like going to a Dodgers game. I just love hearing people talk about things that make them very excited. I'm not a big Star Wars person, but I can see how for a huge Star Wars fan that the theme really hits for this.
And Chris has got not
a big Star Wars fan either, Chris, clearly.
I'm not a big Star Wars fan either, but some friends were down and to
play
games over the weekend, the May the 4th weekend, and they 3D printed these like Lego Star Wars.
That's impressive.
That's awesome.
These are all 3D printed. You shout out to George and Ken.
Wow.
You can take this off so you can even see, the helmet underneath.
No way.
Nothing is glued. They are really, really cool. And then also we've got
that's amazing
as well.
Oh my god, look at that.
Wow.
Right? And they 3D printed.
What does the plaque say? Meeple Beyond.
Oh, it's a Meeple Beyond Borders 2024 because we had like a gaming weekend. And then they also custom made their own Las Vegas, the dice game.
Oh yeah.
This is how to print.
Yeah.
And they 3D printed these lightsaber dice rollers.
What?
So there's like a big old mat of like Star Wars currency. And then we had each had a lightsaber where you shook your dice and you're like, Meow. And then the winners, I didn't win clearly, but the winner
throw the dice out of the lightsaber.
Yeah, you went.
Oh my god!
So sick.
I mean, they went everywhere, so you could just turn them upside down like a regular dice shaker.
But that's not as fun.
Yeah. But the winners got a little Stormtrooper 3D printed one or like a little black R2D2 one.
Wow.
Very cool. Anyway, since
we're
talking about Star Wars, I figured I'd show them off.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, those are brilliant. Wow.
That's sick.
So cool.
Wow.
3D printing.
You gotta love it.
Magic.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So yeah, folks, number 3, Star Wars deck building game does not come with any 3D printing, but you can do your own if you'd like. We've got 2 more, and Ray is going to take us to number 2.
All right. So this is an obligatory pick, but I also wouldn't put something on the list that I didn't love very, very dearly. This is the game where I think if it wasn't on this list, I don't know, Mr. Board Game would come knocking on my door and
you know Mr. Board Game personally?
Mr. Board Game would come, and I'd get in big trouble.
Wow.
This is the game that, to my knowledge, really started the deck building genre. It might have been a mechanic floating around, but this is the game that's largely credited for starting deck building, like pure deck building games. And that's Dominion. I would not sleep at night if Dominion was not on this list somewhere. This is a little bit of a nostalgia glasses for me. This was one of the very first board games I learned. And it was this blew my mind. Like when I was like a kid learning this game, learning how deck building works for the very first time, which is a lot of people's experience with Dominion. This was their first time learning what a deck builder is. And it's such a cool concept to learn as you play. And I remember like playing it with my family and we're all like kind of figuring it together. So it's a little bit of a nostalgia pick, but this is Dominion. If you're unfamiliar, like I said, this is the game that kind of defines the genre. So when we talk about a pure deck building game, in a lot of ways, we're talking about how similar is it to Dominion in a lot of ways, right? So Dominion is, your basic deck builder. You start with a basic deck. You start with your hand. You're trying to alter your deck so that every time you draw a new hand, your purchasing power increases so that you can buy better cards. In Dominion, that takes the form of just straight up money cards. You'll see those copper cards out on the board. You can get better, stronger money cards so that you have more purchasing power in hand. There's also a very interesting action economy as well that you can manipulate to try to get the opportunity to buy more cards. Your goal is to try to have the most victory points, this goes on to be a very classic deck building concept, which is that the cards that win you the game, those green victory point cards, are effectively bricks in your hand. They don't do anything. So there's this tension of when do you start going for points and gunking up your deck versus how long do you keep it sort of pure and running optimally to get those really great cards. And if you're a fan of board games, you might be like, this sounds kind of boring. This sounds like every deck builder. Again, it's because it defined the genre. Okay, calm down. But it also comes with a lot of replayability because the base game of Dominion comes with a bunch of different decks that you can put in the game. So you're buying cards from this central market of, I believe, 10 cards. And Dominion comes with something like 40 types of decks that you can put in the center, right? 40 different stacks of cards. So every time you can shuffle it around. And this was one of the things that I loved as a kid was sitting down and coming up with, because they give you recommended sets to use, but you can also just do whatever you want. And as a kid, I used to love coming up with like broken combinations of cards. It kind of scratches a little bit of like the game designer in all of us of like, which ones can I put together to make this just a terrible broken time? That brings me joy personally. And then in addition, this game famously has a ton of expansions as well that iterate on this base concept and that make it more interesting for a modern gamer. But truly, I think Dominion really holds up. I'm sure there'll be some people in the comments who are annoyed that this is so high up, but it did define the genre. And I do really think, especially with those additional expansions, I mean, this holds up as a fantastic deck builder. If it's not a little bit dated with the art style at this point, but fantastic mechanically and inspired this whole genre that we're talking about.
Yeah, fantastic shows. I was actually surprised this wasn't number one overall. This is it's, as you said, Ray, 100% correct. It defined a genre, and it still holds up with the expansions and whatnot. Like as a pure deck builder, you won't get a better experience from just these decks of cards. I mean, there's a lot on our list that we love, but Dominion rolls on, and it's still
Dominion.
Yeah, it really is. And I played it recently, and I found myself like, wow, this is so good. Like, just it's like a totally like clean design, right? And it's just so fantastic. So yeah, great choice.
Yeah, if you haven't played Dominion in a long time, like if you feel like, oh, Dominion's that like entry level game or whatever, and you've like seriously pull Dominion out again. Like I do think obviously the genre has iterated a bunch and there new things have been done, but I think it really does hold up. And I feel like sometimes those entry-level games kind of get a bad rap in the industry. Like it's kind of assumed that first game or whatever, that you learn in a certain genre, you grow out of it. Yep. And Dominion is just one of the ones that I just don't find myself growing out of. Like, if you recommend Dominion, I'll always play Dominion and have a good time.
Yeah, same here. Absolutely.
Sorry, Chris, you were going to say something.
Chris,
I totally interrupted you.
I just said that it's on an app too. Like it's online. Yeah. It used to be online, and then they took it away, and then they brought it back. And you can do it. You can play for free at the base, and then you can add sets. But I think you might be able to play with people who have purchased sets. That's how it used to be. And so that's how I played through all the different expansions of Dominion once upon a time, because like I was just playing it online, and having it with the expansions, I was like, base Dominion. Like the expansions really. They have developed and grown as board gaming has grown too.
Right.
So, but it's just how many expansions can you hold on to, and how many
they're big boxes, unfortunately. Yeah. But everyone has. It's very fun. I love occasionally like going into BGG forums and looking up like the Dominion expansion ranks, because everyone has very different opinions. So there is an expansion out there for you that you will like that probably a lot of people really hate, but they're because they're so vastly different that everyone has like the two that really make the game work for them. So
that's true. But a funny story, like I've traded away and given away Dominion like 3 times in my lifetime.
Oh,
and,
no.
I've given it to my nephew, and then I picked up another copy, and then I ended up donating it to a school. And I just got a friend of mine was giving away his copy because he got the second edition. So I'm like, okay, give me that one, and we traded. So it's a game that somehow always finds its way back into my collection, and I still love it.
That's beautiful though, in a way,
right?
That it keeps coming back to your collection. I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah. Let's see what Richard's got at the top spot for us in deck building games.
Oh, we are ending strong. Chris, I don't think I've ever felt closer to you. Aeon's End is in my top 25 games of all time. I love it. I have spent so much time playing it in all its different forms. I made it through both full legacy games. I have probably played Aeon's End more than any other game system, at least certainly for the last few years. I probably put in more time to Gloomhaven, but Aeon's End has got to be top 3 most played modern board/card games of all time for me, and with such good reason. And I know you gave it its due, so I won't have to keep talking about it, but good call, sir. And honestly, I'm really surprised this wasn't your number 1, because a certain anime-themed one I've heard you really love too, and maybe we'll hear about that in the post-show. Folks, did you know there's a post-show? After we're done here with this top 12, follow the links down in the show notes. Go to the post-show where I'll be giving you an additional 7 so that I've got a full top 10, and I'm sure everybody else will talk about too, and I can't wait to find out if Chris mentioned another one that we have a real bit of overlap on. Attack on, the deck, we'll see. And then Star Wars, the deck building game. together. Excellent choice. I mean, it was a no-brainer that would be near the top of your list, if not the top. And Ray, Dominion. Yes, that one ranked very high on my original. I should say, by the way, folks, the ones I'm talking about today, I'm talking about all new stuff. I figure after you're done with this, if you want to hear some more deck building, after you're done with the extended edition in the post show, you'll hear a bunch more. Then there'll be a link in the show notes of the post show that will take you to my original top 10. And I just didn't want to repeat any of my entries from what I did 6 years ago. So Dominion ranked very high for me. It ranks very high for Ray. And I have to say, Ray, you and we are very simpatico. But now, let's talk about number one for the list, or at least number one on my personal list. I can't rave about this game enough because it's my number 2 highest ranked game of all time. It's Shadowrun Crossfire. Now, this is a pure cooperative deck builder that is fast and furious and deadly. We are a bunch of... it's a cyberpunk future world fused with high fantasy, so there's dragons and orcs and goblins, but we're also running around in like the world of Blade Runner. So it's, that's an interesting setting, although that's not what pulls me in. What pulls me in is the brilliant deck building and the absolutely brutal, unforgiving gameplay. We are members of a crew, and our job has gone wrong. Whatever it was, it's all gone wrong, and now we're just trying to get out of town, but there's a bounty on our heads, and everybody's coming out of the woodwork to take us in and collect the bounty, dead or alive. And so we just have to survive through 3 brutal rounds of survival as more and more cyberpunk fantasy bad guys, bounty hunters, come out of the woodwork trying to take us down. And we only have the smallest, tiniest of decks. You start with a very small deck without very much in it. And over the course of this game, this is a deck builder, but you're not going to do much deck building. You really are spending too much time trying to puzzle out how best to use the cards in your hand. But more importantly, how to make moves on your turn that will help your teammate on their turn, because the overlap between players in here, the opportunities for collusion and trying to control these nearly unbeatable odds, because it will only work if you throw out everything you have ever learned about how to play a cooperative game, because they're all traps, and this game requires you to completely rewire your mind to survive that desperate night as you're trying to get out of town. And with such a small deck of cards and so few cards that you buy, every purchase you make, every new card you buy, which by the way comes directly into your hand, so you don't have to wait. You get them and you use them immediately, and you need them immediately. Every card you buy is literally a life and death decision. One wrong purchase, you will lose this game. And I warn people going in, because a lot of people say the game is totally unfair. It's just completely random luck fest. And to anybody who says that, I always like to point out that the developers of this game win 90% of the time, and they have to artificially increase the difficulty for it to be challenging for them. So me, I don't. Jen and I, we're to the point now where we can win maybe about 50% of the time, and we've played this game a lot. I mean, so much. I mean, over 50 games of this easily, and I'd happily be playing it right now. And as much as I love it, I, again, feel kind of bad mentioning this because it's getting harder and harder to get your hands on it. But, folks, if you're interested in this, but maybe you don't like cyberpunk, you're in luck, because there is a new spin-off coming later this year. It's called Runefire instead of Crossfire, and it is set in the Pathfinder fantasy role-playing universe. This is set in the Shadowrun role-playing universe, and they briefly did Dragonfire, which was based in the Dungeons and Dragon universe. I liked it, but it was nowhere near as good as Shadowrun. Some of the changes they made really weakened the game overall. I played a lot of Dragonfire, but I keep coming back to Shadowrun. It'll be interesting to see later this year if Runefire can supplant Shadowrun, which, like I said, is currently my number 2 highest ranked game of all time. I love it to pieces. It's just a quick, brutal, just merciless 30 minutes of fun play where the only way you will get out alive is you spend more time worrying about your opponent, or your teammate, than you do about yourself. And I could go on and on and on. I have spent so much time covering this game, filming. I mean, I did an interactive run-through where players could solve puzzles along with me as we try. I mean, that's what I'm showing on screen here. I love it to pieces. I'm very, very excited later this year to try out Runefire and see if it improves. And that's it, folks. Until we get to the post show, I'm going to throw it back to the gang.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Runefire based on how much Richard loves this game. He's talked about it several times on the show and just in person, actually. I've talked to him, I think at Dice Tower West, we talked about how much he loved this game. So I'm looking forward to the new version because the old version, I can't get a copy. So good call, Richard.
Well, there we go. That's the list.
Yeah.
We
right.
did it.
That's
we
the
made
list.
it.
We did it.
Good list, guys.
Yeah, that was fun. Folks, thanks again for joining us. Be sure to click on the links below to find out all the cool stuff and how to get to the post show, whatnot. We want to thank our friends over at the Tramways Engineers Workbook 2 now on Kickstarter. Again, please check out the links below to find out more about the game. And until next time, we'll see you later. So long. Bye-bye. And hello, we are back for the post show, folks.
We're back.
Yeah.
I guess we better play Richard's thing so that we can go right till 5 and then go a little bit over.
I know. Here we go. Okay, Richard, let's see what you got on your post show notes.
Okay, welcome to the post show, everybody. I'm going to try and go quick because I know I tend to monopolize what little time we have by doing my long list while everybody else only does a couple. So let me go as fast as I can. Quick, like a bunny. My full countdown, my new top 10. Because remember, I've got an additional top 10 of completely different games. Link for that down in the show notes. But my new top 10, really an extension of the top 20. Oh, I'm already failing at going faster. Here we go. Number 10, Eaten by Zombies. Oh, what a criminally overlooked little game. This is the introduction to deck deconstruction, where you're trying to build up a deck full of tools that you can use to survive the zombie apocalypse. A very, very cool, 1950s Americana zombie apocalypse. There's a Rosie Riveter zombie-fied. But the zombies themselves are ripping your deck apart. And basically, this is just a game of attrition. Sooner or later, all other players, except for one, will have had their deck destroyed by zombies. And all the other players will have become zombies themselves, trying to attack the remaining players until there's only one human left. And that's the player who wins. And it's so clever. It's so much fun. It's got such a great presentation. And it's from all the way back in 2011. I really wish it would have gotten more attention. It really deserves it. Okay, then number 9, Runestones from Rudiger Dorn. One of the all-time greats. Istanbul, Goa. His list as long as my arms. And this is his take on deck building. And it's absolutely brilliant. Because every turn, you are going to play 2 cards from your hand to do 2 things. And then one of them you will say goodbye to, and the other one will stay in your hand. So this game is forcing you, against your will, often, to deck thin as you're constantly saying goodbye to 50% and buying new cards as fast as you can to replace them. The tension and the tough choices you have to make in this game are absolutely phenomenal. It's really, really unique. And while I know if you were to look at this, it looks like, oh, is it a board game? Because, by the way, I'm sure the other guys mentioned, or, the gang, Ray or somebody said that we were trying to limit ourselves to pure deck builders as opposed to, like, Clank, which is really a board game that features deck building. This is a deck builder. You could play this game without the board. It's just a place to hold your cards and tokens and stuff like that. So, Runebound, I say I'll allow it, and it's absolutely phenomenal, and more people should be talking about it. Then we've got Books of Time. And now this is a very unconventional game because you actually have 3 decks of cards that you're building over time, but they don't work like regular decks. Instead, each one of them is a book. Whenever you buy a new card for your book, i.e. deck, you literally open up the spiral binder, put the card in, and then close it up. And so much of this game is about turning pages in these books. Again, these are just 3 decks of cards. You're building all of them independently, trying to figure out ways to make them work in synergy, but it is so cool and satisfying and so unusual. I mean, it is a bit off the beaten path. I don't think I would have put it on the short list, but I consider it to be a deck builder, just a deck builder unlike anything you've ever seen before, and it's really, really cool. Then we've got Valletta. Another one that has a board, but it's really just a board to, basically keep track of your victory points for all intents and purposes. And it is from Stefan Dora, another one of the all-time OG great designers. And this is his take on deck building, and it's quite unlike anything else out there. The biggest element that really makes it stand out is the unique way that you are drafting cards, because they're all laid out, in this big grid. And I'll be honest, Another reason I love it so much is because it is set in Valletta, which is the capital of Malta, which is where Jen and I have spent many, many years of our lives and have very fond memories. So this game does have a kind of big nostalgia factor for me. But aside from that, you can go watch my run through. It's on the channel. It's a really interesting and unique take on deck building also. Then what we got? Oh, baby. Edge of Darkness. The interesting thing about this, again, another example of where it looks like it's a board game, but all the board is doing is just holding the cards. There's all these different stacks of cards you can draft, and they just have them on a board. But here's the interesting thing about this. This is from John D. Clare, using the same card crafting system as Mystic Vale. And so you're building up this deck by upgrading and improving the cards that are already in the deck by slotting more powers on them, which is absolutely cool. But that's not what really makes this game special. What makes this game special is it's one deck that everybody, all players are building towards. In every round or every turn, there's going to be the top 5, or maybe it's 6 top 5 cards come out of the deck, and you can see some of those cards you've been building, and some of those are the cards I've been building. And you can use your own that you put in, or you could use mine. All the time and effort I put into building the perfect card, what do you know? It happened to come out at the perfect time for you to use it. But you've got to pay me to use it. So this is awesome, excellent, next level stuff. I'm really redefining the core ideas of deck building. And then, by the way, do we also mention card crafting as well? Absolutely phenomenal. And then, you know what? Ray, you already put Paperback, so I'll go ahead and put Paperback Adventures on the list because Paperback would have made my short list as well. Again, as a continuation for my top 10. And you've already talked about Paperback. All I'll say is Paperback Adventures has that same core wonderful Scrabble meets deck building, but then turns it into an awesome fantasy adventure game with so much clever charm and heart and humor. It's phenomenal. And then my number 4 is Kashgar Merchants of the Silk Road, which, like Books of Time, is a very unconventional deck builder. Again, you've got 3 decks that you're building, but the thing is, these decks are all splayed out, so you can see exactly where all your cards are in each deck. And on your turn, you're going to activate the topmost card of any of your decks, and you're building them independently. Okay, I'm going to keep, because once you play a card, it goes to the bottom of the deck, and you won't see that card again for a while. So your decks kind of become, you have these 3 parallel, what do you call them, conveyor belts of your cards. So instead of just drawing blind and seeing what you get, you know exactly what you're going to get, but the card you need right now to combo with the card that's available on this other one is buried. So are you going to play all these other cards to unveil the card you need to combo with this other card? It is so cool. And like I said, with Books of Time, I could see some people arguing it's not a deck builder, but to me, it's just a very unconventional deck builder that gives you 3 decks to manage and presents them in a really cool and interesting and innovative way. Kashgar Merchant of the Silk Road is amazeballs. And then there were my numbers 3, Imperium Horizon, to be replaced by the Star Trek game coming from WizKids. Number 2, Asonia, and number 1, Shadowrun Crossfire. Oh, it is a good time to be a deck builder fan, folks. And we're almost done with the R&R. So remember, the links for my original top 10 will be down in the show notes as well. So you can learn about even more amazing deck builders, several of which you've never heard of. But now I can't wait to hear what the gang comes up with for additionals, because I'm always excited to hear about more deck builders.
Okay, yeah, lots of great things there, Richard. And I never would have thought Books of Time would have been a deck builder. I can see your point. I really enjoyed Books of Time, but I consider it more of a tableau builder. But yeah, fantastic game and lots of good stuff there. We are running late as always, so why don't we jump into games that didn't make our official list. Chris, you want to start us off with things that we may have missed?
Yeah, and chat, be vocal as well, because I want to hear what you got. The one that Richard referenced, I'm not going to talk about because that's going to be my number 1 next week. I mean, if you know me,
okay.
I'll talk about it. It's Attack on Titan, the deck building game. It's amazing.
Nice.
But I thought it was going to be on Richard's list, and I was very excited because I was going to rag him for it because it's not just deck building.
Deck Builder Plus.
It's a Deck Builder Plus. There's a board element to it, or like a movement element. So that's why it didn't make this one. Honestly, I was similar boat to Ray in terms of I'm excited for next week's list because I have a whole plethora of that in terms of standard ones. Like not too much. Honestly, one that I played played recently is just one that a friend is working on. It's going to be called Rune Beasts. Speaking of all these runes going along, I think that's what it's called. It's going to be out like next year. But it's basically Pokemon, the board game. But like, you get your beasts and like you can evolve them.
Nice.
And I thought that was really cool. Like being able to like tuck cards to create that evolution status to make a better one.
Very
and then
cool.
you have like battles every like 6 turns or 4 turns or whatever. It's in development, so might all change.
Are you supposed to be talking about it, Chris? Fun. Are you sure you're?
I can talk about it. I can talk about it. I know.
I'm sweating over all these
embargo
breaches.
You want me to spoil some more things? Things coming out WSBG. I'll spoil. I'll spoil them. Arc Nova board. Everybody's gonna get a special Arc Nova board.
What?
That no one's ever seen before.
What?
Wait, really?
Say it. What? Okay, the stream's ending. Over to you, Ray.
So
wow.
Only Arc Nova players will get it. You better get it. Sign up for WSBG. What's that? Who knows? What's happening? I don't know.
Wow.
Something, Ray. Your turn.
Very casual, very low-key spoiler there, Chris.
That
Good
was
job.
fun, Chris. Wow.
We're going to be talking about it this week. So
okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Just graphics are being made, and there might be more stuff. Yeah.
Nice. Well, nice reveal. Ray, any other games that didn't make onto the official list?
I mean, as I already mentioned, gonna echo Chris, had a lot that were Deck Builder Plus. The one, though, that I hemmed and hawed over putting on this list, but I chose to leave it off, was Avant-Garde, the recent Resonant deck building game.
Yes.
And I want to at least give that. For some reason, I feel like it wasn't quite for me. I didn't personally click with it super hard, but I wanted to at least give it a shout out because the box, if you've never seen Avant-Garde, it basically has this rolling fold up box so that when you start, one of the most annoying things in almost every game that we talked about today is that when you think about Dominion, right, it's this giant box of all these little tiny decks of cards and you can't store it on its side because then all the cards go everywhere. Like a lot of deck builder games are just massive cards that you have to always be sorting out. Well, what decks do we use? Like even in paperback, you have to sort out, what decks are we using? Avant-Garde has this beautiful rollout box where it's just like, boom, you roll it out. Those are the cards you need. They're like perfectly prearranged in the right sets. So there's very minimal setup. It's just Max Eidman, who designed that box, he's just very clever engineer. A lot of his games include some really clever piece of board game engineering. So it's it's cool. It's a cool thing literally just to own. And I hope it catches on in the deck building genre like community because it really speeds up that setup and it's a really fun little thing to own. So that was the only one that I debated putting on my final list.
Yeah, that component is brilliant. I would love to see all deck builders use it. It's so cool.
Smooth.
Yeah, so I like the game too. It's a little on the lighter side than I expected, but it's a perfectly fine deck builder. And again, that component is fantastic.
100%.
Yeah, the other ones that I was going to talk about, Shards of Infinity. That's another dueling one that's super fast battle in the Health Noggin type of game. Also, Friday, a solo deck building game, which I didn't think was possible, but it's fantastic.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, right?
That's a good pick.
It's a solid game. Friedman Freeze, folks,
that's
for those. Really good one.
Yeah.
I actually had Star Realms, Ascension, Mystic Veil, Dominion. And the other one I threw on, it's a newer game. It's super light, but it's got a deck building element to it. And I guess it's not a pure deck builder, but Challengers, which recently won the Spiel. Okay. Cool.
I thought about Challengers as well, actually, but I didn't really like Challengers.
Oh, you didn't like Challengers?
I thought about it as I don't know why. I don't know why it didn't click for me, but that's people love it. I mean, as you said, it was nominated for the Spiel. So it's like it for a reason.
Yeah, it's super light, super easy, but a fun game. But folks, we are out of time. Why don't we talk about some of the folks in chat with some of the games that they're into deck building? Do we have any, Ray or Chris?
Yeah, I got lists. Well, first of all, we got to talk about this game that Bloody will not stop talking about that I've never heard of, and I really hope one of the two of you have, which is Vikings Gone Wild.
Oh yeah,
which sounds ridiculous. Can one of you illuminate me on what this is? Because apparently this is Bloody's favorite deck building game.
I've never played it. I just know the company. It's by Vesuvius Media. They're based out of Halifax, Nova Scotia, and I think they also do the Dwarves series, the Dwarves Sevens series. Like it's spelled Dwar 7S instead of just calling it Seven Dwarves. And honestly, that infuriates me so much.
Wow.
But this, I remember. I love the art style behind it, and it also has the same art, so I think it looks really cool.
Yeah. This is a game.
Well, I'll have to look into it.
I haven't played it either. I've heard of it, and I do like that artwork, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was Bloody's pick. I then have from the pre-show what people told me. We have Jeremiah Blob says that their top would be Eminent Domain. Would be their number one deck builder.
Game. Nice.
Billy Pratt says Blood Bowl Team Manager, which I've never heard of before.
Okay.
But I like that name.
Blood Bowl Team.
Well, I know
Team Manager.
Blood Bowl is that sort of skirmish football
the minis game, right? Yeah,
with the minis game. But so there must be an offshoot.
Yeah, Blood Bowl Manager, Team Manager, the card game from 2011.
Okay,
that's a 7.4 in BGG, which is not bad.
Nice,
cool.
Yeah, no, I'd never played it before. And then the other ones from Billy Pratt were. Hogwarts Battle, thank you for that shout out for the op. That's our cooperative deck building game that we make here at the op.
Yeah.
Really great. I get comments still to this day. That game came out years and years ago, and I still get DMs all the time from people thanking us for that game because it introduced them to deck building or introduced them to board games in general. And I will also just small plug, if you like that game, it is also re-themed with several other themes at the op. We have a Toy Story version, and then we also have an Avatar version coming soon. It's been lightly teased. There was an article about it, I believe, on Polygon.
Okay.
So if you're not into the Harry Potter theme, but you really like that core cooperative deck building, we do have other themes of that game.
Nice.
Lightly teased. Now, see, there's a spoiler, Ray. That'll hit your spoiler.
I did that just for you. That's that. We haven't technically said anything.
I love it.
And then they also said Eminent Domain as well. And then Belligerent said Dominion, and then they also said Smash Up, which unfortunately I think is not really a deck building game, but is a great game.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that I had from the pre-show / during the show. If anyone else has more they want to throw in chat.
There's also Soir probably says, I love Chiseled. Kind of the opposite of a deck builder. It's literally about thinning out your starting deck. Thematically, you're chiseling a block of marble into a statue, which does sound really cool.
That does.
I like that theme.
Yeah.
I've never heard of
like that a lot. Somebody says, anyone getting Xenon Profiteer? I've never heard of that either.
I've heard of it, have not played it.
That name sounds like a name you'd say to make fun of board game names. Like Xenon Profiteer sounds like a joke name from someone who only tangentially, like maybe is like married to someone really into board games but doesn't like 100%. Play any of them. Xenon Profiteer. I'm sure it's great. That name just feels very funny and generic to me.
Totally funny.
But no, I'm unfamiliar with it.
Yeah, I've heard of it, and I know that people really, really enjoy it. So need to check it out one day. Okay.
As Monty Games says, it's neat, not very deep. So
exactly.
Yeah.
There's a cute tagline pun in there somewhere for a light board game. It's neat, but not very deep. There's like I feel like there's something there. That's really cute.
Shallow Waters. That's the title of the board game.
Shallow Water. I love it.
Love that. Love that.
Okay, friends, that's going to do it for the R&R show this time. Episode 90. We had the pre-show and the post-show. We had the actual show, and we loved hanging out with y'all, talking about our top 12 deck builders. Thanks to Richard as well for joining via video this time. We have a show coming up on the 21st. Is that correct, Chris? That's our next one.
Yeah.
Where we're going to revisit this, but we're going to look at the deck builders that actually go beyond just pure deck building. We have a board and whatnot. I'm really excited for that list, and I know you two are as well. So that's going to be on the 21st. And folks, I will be back here by myself next week, finishing up the From the Vault series. So Richard looked back at the award winners from 2023. And if you want to hear him rant and rave, that's the time to come on over and check it out, because I will be ranting and raving with him on the video. So that's From the Vault next week, and then back with Chris and Ray on the 21st for R&R episode number 91. Chris and Ray, any final words before we raid another channel?
Nope. My cat's meowing in the background.
So
it's time to go.
Time to go.
Thanks everybody for watching. It was lovely hanging out.
Yes. All right. Why don't we find someone to raid? And
thanks, Arsketeers. Yeah.
Arsketeers.
That's all of us.
Yes.
That's all of us now. The Arsketeers. Good shout out, John.
I love that.
Nice. Okay, I'm going to start the raid right now. In 10 seconds, we're going to go raid Lumen S, who is playing Agricola right now. So
hell yeah.
Let's go check out some Agricola in 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, thanks to all of you for watching. Thanks to BGG for hosting us today. This has been the R&R show. We'll see you later. Bye, friends.
See ya.
Bye. Oh my God.
I think I timed that out all right.
That was beautiful.
Okay.
That was so intense.